been walking through the Navy Exchange and wonder why all the Naval Pride and Heritage gear is horrifically ugly and you wouldn't actually wear it? Have you ever wanted some really cool gear and you just don't know where to go? Well, I got you, fam. Go to dgutspodcast.com immediately. Get yourself some Naval Pride and Heritage gear you'll actually wear in public. We're working on new designs all the time, open to ideas. We're trying to create a brand that lets you display that pride but doesn't make you cringe. Also, if you're willing to and you're able to, please go to patreon.com/dgutspodcast, pick one of the 5 tiers and become a patron today. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Don't Give Up the Ship podcast. It's episode 132, and it's Ask the Chief Rev 11, I think. It's been a while since we talked to Bob. He has been back. He's back on a submarine now for the first time in over a decade. So that's its own adventure. And then, sea duty, he's super busy. As always, it hasn't changed much. He's on a submarine instead of at submarine school. So, he finally had a moment. So we jumped on kind of last minute and chopped it up about just like it's like an update on what's been going on with him, how the adjustment back to a submarine has been. It's kind of a bizarre thing for a chief to be away from submarines as long as he has and then go back and try to fill that role. Plus, if that's not hard enough, which I can tell you that it is. Now, I don't have personal experience like being away from one that long, but I'm just saying, like, if I had been, just going to shore duty and coming back is hard enough. After 3 years away, you're like, oh God, I got to remember how to do all these things. And then I would go to different classes of submarine each time. So that was its own adjustment, but it's a way milder version of what Bob's going through right now. And then, if that's not hard enough, the rating merger, which a lot of people are probably, if you're outside of the submarine community, you're probably pretty unfamiliar, but it's just like they merged some ratings. He used to be a radioman, and then they kind of like merged them with ITSs, but then changed their roles, and now all of a sudden he's a land guy basically. So it's like he's got a whole new job too. It's a really strange situation to be in, and it's going. So we got into all that, talked about some season stuff a little bit towards the end, I think, but yeah, it was good to talk to him. It's been a while because he's just been so busy, but also I know you guys are fans of Chief Bob and are probably wondering what he's been up to, so I hope you all enjoy this. Check it out. It seems like because somebody was asking me about you. Or they said when I was talking to Ariana and Desiree the other day, they were like, yeah, Bob really wanted to be on, but and I'm like, Bob has fucking 700 flaming chainsaws that he's juggling at all times. He does not have time for this shit. So
I did really want to be there because I talked to Ariana, I think probably like 2 or 3 days before final night. Because I was just curious, like, I don't know, I haven't really had a chance to listen to anything. The only they're just stacking up so bad. The only podcasts I've been listening to it's like a morning daily news one that's 15 minutes, and I listen to shave in the morning.
I watch Breaking Points almost every day just to see what's going on in the world. But yeah, exactly,
and that's all it is. I let it play on the sink next to me while I shave and all that. And like that's the only time I have to do anything. Like I caught myself a few times driving to work in just total silence.
Yeah. It's probably a good thing. It's like meditative. You probably need the silence.
It's brutal.
What's been besides because you got the boat, right? And then you've got home, and then you've got I don't even know what else.
Well, so the hard part with when I got to the boat, right? Because I don't think I've talked to you since I officially checked into the boat.
Not really, no. Like I think last time we talked, you were on leave or something. You were about to go on like a trip, I think, after school, maybe. I don't remember. Whatever. I don't think you were actually checked in.
Anyways, so yeah, I went out. I met up with the boat. Got on for a week, right? So I got on with oars. Which is the worst time to get on because
that's so weird. Most COs won't let Yeah, most COs won't let that happen. It's everybody and the food and parts are oars off. That's weird. They're always worried something's going to go wrong, and the oars team's delicate sensibilities are going to be offended, so they're just like worried about it.
I think it was just they just wanted to get some people out there, and then the guy that I was relieving, he was getting off.
He was leaving. Yeah. Okay.
So figuratively high-fived topside on the same BSP. But I didn't even, it's top-sided BSP. Like, you don't have time to,
right. Yeah. You don't have time to talk.
Chat, right.
It's just like, get on, get off.
I couldn't pick the dude out of a lineup. I don't know who he is.
Right.
Which is fine. Like, I've talked to him a little bit before they left at the beginning of the underway, but, I didn't get like a full turnover with him. Right. So I showed up, but like, I didn't even have a TLD for a couple of days because no command is going to give you one in the middle of oars.
Right. And you're not going back aft anyway, unless the submarine's on fire. Exactly. And at that point, a dose estimate's going to be the least of their concerns.
Exactly.
Until it's over.
So I just kind of hung out and met the dudes, kind of tried to get my feet under me a little bit.
Yeah. And this is your crew. You weren't just riding the other crew to be on the boat. It was actually your crew.
Yeah. So it was a lot of just trying to meet the people, put faces like, oh, okay, you are in my division and you are in my division or whatever, right? And that was fine. It is what it is, but you can only be so productive in that amount of time span, especially when the first 3.5 days are eaten up with a horse. Yeah. And then we pulled in, turnover, and I had a first class.
Was Homeboy there for turnover? You're the guy you relieved, or was he gone?
No, that's what I mean. He got off.
Oh God!
On the same BSP.
How did you turn over if you didn't even know what the hell was going on? You just stood there and were like, "Yep, cool. I hope everything's all right." Because dude, that almost always holds up turnover. Something to do with crypto. Like they can't find some shit or like whatever, and it's like
land guy.
Oh yeah. I keep forgetting you're not radio anymore. So you probably just high-fived him. Yeah.
Basically. Well, so the first class was like, he was pretty senior. He made chief this year also, which is awesome.
Oh, nice.
And so he took over. He basically became the chief for like those days because I didn't really know what.
Right.
And I felt bad because they kept asking me like, hey, what do you think? Should we do this? Should we do this? And I'm like,
I don't know.
Man, talk to him, dude. And it's like, oh, well, you're here now, so I wanted to run it by you. And I'm like, I appreciate that.
You can, and I'm just going to look at him. Yeah. That's funny. I mean, at least they're
and so I just kind of tried to sit back and watch and see, the dynamics of everything. But so I had that one first class, and then I have 3 second classes and a third.
In Landiv? That's a lot of people, I feel like. I guess it's you guys probably have different duties and responsibilities after the rating merger or whatever than what I'm used to anyway. Yeah.
Right. There's like a whole.
I don't know what you guys
have to stand now. And
is it land tech? Or is it different?
Cyber tech.
Oh, fancy pants. Space Force.
Yeah. So we stay in cyber tech or cyber watch. I don't know what it's called.
Like on those old ass submarines, what could possibly qualify as something that needs to be called as like that needs the attention of a cyber tech? Like it's old ass analog ass submarine.
The land is still the land. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, yeah.
They just bolted it to an old boat.
Yeah. It's funny.
So anyway, so like I had that
somebody got promoted for that.
Yeah. I had that first class for 3 weeks and then he transferred. So it was me and my junior dudes. My most senior guy has been on the boat. I think he just cracked a year.
Damn. You got all them second classes and none of them have been there more than a year?
When I showed up, the day, I think it was when we were surfaced and we were pulling in. It was the surface transit in, and I was able to push the right buttons and nudge the right people, and they got 2 of my 4 up in the bridge to get pinned and get their fish.
Okay.
The third one got his fish last week, and my last guy gets his fish hopefully a week.
Yeah, that's good.
Hopefully next week he'll have his board and get his fish. But like that's how it sounds good when you're like, dang, 4 second classes, all right. But then you're like,
it does.
No, they're basically seamen.
Oh God,
I have 4 seamen that are just paid seconds, so,
right?
I mean, which good for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not like traditional second classes that you.
How did they make rank so damn fast if they're not? If they haven't been around?
Automatic 3rd class, and I think the advancement for a cycle, at least one cycle, was 100% to second.
Yeah. Okay. So they just kept breathing. So, got it.
Right place at the right time, you know. Good for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't hate on them for it.
Yeah, no, it's not their fault. They existed at the time. There was 100% advancement. Like, I'll take it. I would have took it if it was ever that good. So whatever. Yeah,
I'm not bashing them. So, but they just don't have the traditional second class skills
like
that you would think of somebody who's like, hey, I'd been on the boat for 2.5 years before I made second or something.
Right.
Which, whatever. So anyways, they're all just super junior. And it's been difficult, not because they don't know anything. Like, they know a lot. They're super smart dudes. They all really want to do well. I don't have any like, I don't know.
Yeah, they just need time
of things, like, which is good. Yeah, they just need the experience, which is fine.
Yeah.
It's just hard when the last time I was on a submarine, my rate did not exist.
Right.
So when something confusing comes up and they're like, hey, how do we do this? And I'm like,
good question. Let's find out together.
Yeah, let's go downstairs and let's go talk to Squadron.
Yeah.
Which has been super helpful. I told them when I did my check-in process and I sat down with them, like, hey man, there's a lot of this stuff. Like, I'm not dumb. I'm not computer dumb, but like, I don't know how to IT on a submarine. There's a lot of specifics that I am not familiar with. So I
still can't believe they've sent you back to a boat, dude. I know you volunteered, but I'm just saying, like, I still can't believe they even did it. I'm surprised they didn't say no.
It is what it is. And so it's been fine. It's just been it's been a steady fire hose of everything. Cause like when I checked in, when I talked to like my cob, he was like, all right, well, and a lot of it was like, I'm trying to check in during ORS, obviously, like trying to get that done with.
Which and no so one gives a fuck like, during ORS. Like, it's like the last thing on their mind.
And it's also like, hey man, you've been in we started talking about how long we'd been in or whatever it was. I don't remember how it was, but something came up and one of the dudes looked over at me and he was like, oh, I heard you were the new baby chief. And I was like,
nah, bro.
Doubt it.
I'm the new daddy chief.
I said, I doubt it. I mean, it's possible, but I doubt it.
I'm the new zaddy.
Well, he was
I don't even know what that means. I just said it because I thought it was funny. Yeah. They always think you got a baby face like I do, like minus the beard. Like everybody thought I was younger than I was. And
if you shaved, you would get ID'd to drive a car.
Yeah. 100%. Like, when I shave, when I'm clean shaven, I look I'm starting to get a lot of lines and stuff. So it's a little less, slip. But yeah. Does your mom know you're here? Yeah. 100%.
But so he was like, I was like, no, I made it in 18. And they were like, oh, well, and in my head, I was like, it wasn't that long ago. Like,
but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's a hot minute. Yeah. Like you've been a chief for, that's 5 years, right?
Right.
6 years. 5, that's a while, man. And like most dudes are picking up senior chief around then, I feel like on average.
Yeah. No, my whole career I've been behind average. That's fine.
Man, whatever.
But he was like, oh, he's like, when did you join? And I was like, 07. And he was like, oh, and you could kind of see him. And he's like, no, you're definitely not the baby. And then we started doing the math and looking at it and then realized that I'm the most senior chief.
I thought you had already established that. Like, I feel like you told me that, or maybe it was a story where the same thing happened at sub school or something. But like, I thought you told me that they did
so that was just like a conversation with him, but then chief season comes out, right? Like, that was the phone card thing when they're trying to
where they're trying to figure out how to do it in order or whatever.
So when they passed out phone cards to everybody looked at it and it's like, how's this new clown at the top of the sheet kind of thing. And so I had like 3 different people be like, when did you make it? And it's like, listen, man, just because I'm not
like,
old.
yeah, like at what point do we just accept that, like, I aged gracefully, bitch? All right.
Who cares?
George Clooney and this motherfucker. Like, yeah, well, that too. Like, I always laughed when like people would get salty about like, who was it? Like, if it was in the wrong order on the phone card and they're just like, well, I'm senior to them. And it's like, who gives a fuck, dude? It's a phone card that no one's ever going to use.
Do I get to pick my rack then?
Yeah, well, and that's how they do it on BNs usually is, yeah, like that. I'm real concerned about that. I was pissed because my EDMC, they have like an EDMC's rack, and he had just got frocked. Like he was a squadron chief, and then he got frocked to senior chief, and our EDMC had just like fell out medically. And so it was like an emergency, and he was already qualified. So they sent him down. And great dude. Like, I love him to death. But yeah, I was like, I had just checked in as this was happening, and I asked like, and they're like, any rack that's not the Cobbs. And I'm like, all right. So, because I was the most senior guy on board, not named Cobb. And even with EDMC coming down. And so I put I liked that rack because of course I did. And so I put all my, I moved into it. I had all my shit in there. And then the Cobb comes up to me like the day before Mark was supposed to come down. He's like, you need to move out of that rack. And I'm like, excuse me? He goes, that's the EDMC's rack. And I'm like, the EDMC's a baby senior chief. I'm not moving any fucking where. And then we got into this like argument. I'm like, are you serious? So we issue racks in order of seniority except for the EDMC? I'm like, this is fucking stupid. I'm senior to him. And they're like, yeah, but he's an EDMC. I'm like, so the fuck what? I'm the fucking supply department chief. Like, it's the same shit. And like, I get it. He's the EDMC and it's a huge department and it's an important job. Like, I get it, but fuck off. I'm senior to him. And so I ended up having to move because the Cobb was being a punk and because it's like the BN thing that they do. But no one told me until I had already like got cozy in that rack, side. Dude. I was so pissed. Yeah. Yeah. Port side forward. I was mad as fuck. Middle rack.
Yep.
Rude. I liked my other rack though.
So, well, I just took the one empty one that was in there. Which was, I was in on starboard side in the 6-pack on the bottom, like way at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a nice one back in that dark hole. Like when you go all the way outboard, that's nice. Yeah, like it's so quiet back there and dark and cold.
It was quiet. It's just like, it's so small that like you can't get dressed without running into 8 people. So I felt trying to just exist, you know.
Yeah, that's what I liked. You know, I had the
sleeping.
Yeah, I had on port side. I ended up in the middle rack. It was like right when you walked in the door, the one right in front of you to kind of to your left. Like it's inboard middle. Yeah, and there's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing across from you, which sucks because that's the wall where the booth is. But then it's like, it's cool because, yeah, there's only 2 other guys that could possibly live there. So it's like less people to maneuver around. But yeah.
But yeah, so anyways, like it was fine. But when I checked in, so when people realized like I wasn't brand new, it was like, oh. And they're like, okay, and you've been in for a while. So there's a lot of like, you know what you're doing with this. And
they just assume. Like, they start blazing off all your recalls and shit. They're like, you get it.
So much that, but
they did that to me too. And I had never been on a BN.
And it was like, I'm like, hey, I haven't been on a submarine in 12 years.
Yeah.
And they're like, what?
Oh.
And I'm like, I have not been on a submarine, on any submarine. Longer than like half of our chiefs have
been in the Navy.
You know, like
that's fun. That's a fun context.
I am not as senior as you think as far as like submarine experiential or whatever, right? Yeah. And so a lot of everybody was super helpful when I would explain it. Like I have no issues with any of that. The problem is a lot of the stuff that I have to ask or like what they look at you and they're like, you know about this.
Yeah. Nope. Sure don't.
Yeah. So like we're talking about, you know, just every time you pull in on a BN, a 30-year crew goes away and you get brand new people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they were saying, our Cobb was like, hey, are you qualified chief of the watch or dive? And I said, I did qualify chief of the watch before.
Oh, did you? Nice.
That's good. Before I left my first boat. again, 12 years ago.
Right. I mean, still though, there'll be a little bit of residual knowledge probably, like, oh yeah, I kind of remember this, you know, like.
I remember I need to pressurize the fire main when there's a fire.
Yes, you do. That's a fact.
Knowledge.
I mean, yeah, I'm just saying some of it might come back to you once you get rolling and you'll be like, okay, I kind of remember this. And like, yeah, it is a long time though. So like, yeah, I don't know, man. That is a really long
to put it
time.
into context, I had to Google like the colors and shapes of the knobs for the alarms because I didn't remember which was which. I mean, they're labeled, but like,
yeah,
I couldn't tell you which color and shape each of the alarms were. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
like, it's bad.
They should probably make you like do an actual like submarine requal, because they just told me like I requalified Chief of the Watch and they were just like, that's your submarine requal, because like I had been on a boat way more recently.
Like realistically, I'm fine, and that's why that was part of the reason why if I was going back to a boat, I wanted to go back to a BN, because like I can get through it just fine. If you told me there's a fire in a space, I know how to get there.
Yeah,
I may not right off the top of my head remember the nearest fire hose, but I'm gonna figure it out when I get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
and
I'm not that bad, but
there's a certain amount of just like muscle memory and like knowledge that over that 4.5 years on your first boat was just like encoded into your fucking DNA. So it's just like, yeah, I don't doubt that.
Like,
I know after one patrol
and put it on.
Yeah, after one patrol, it's gonna feel like you never left almost, you know.
Yeah, it was totally fine, but. So then there was that, but then so he was like, well, cool, we've lost a bunch of people. I'm gonna need you to be Chief of the Watch next under.
Okay, of course. Fine. You're gonna get so much trainer time, dude. Like it's gonna be nothing.
Well, like, but then he goes, actually, I'm also gonna need you to certify. And
that's okay. Squadron's gonna stand there while you do drills in the trainer, dude. You'll be fine. You'll do so many fucking trainers during PDTP or off crew or whatever you want to call it. Like you're gonna be in the trainer so damn much, huh?
Dude, that dive and drive trainer is slammed.
It's fun though. I love that thing, man.
It can be when you don't have people screaming at you the whole time because you don't know what you're doing.
True. It depends on who your OI is and if the cob is gonna be chill or not. But yeah.
So like before we went into it the first time, you know, I went through, we sat down as a watch team as just like a quick reminder and walked through like the diving procedure and blah, blah, blah. And he kind of walked us through what's going to happen in the trainer. So I said,
did you have an OI with you?
And yeah, technically.
Like a qualified dude? Okay.
Yeah.
I was just saying, that's pretty rough to just, we're just going to refresh on some procedures when you haven't seen a BCP in 12 years and then just like start rolling. That's a little much.
That's basically what it was.
Can I open a book? So then
it was like, it was basically what it was. Well, the problem is like, I mean, you've clearly read an SSM before.
Yeah.
Reading the dive procedure from that and then actually doing it are like not even close to the same thing.
That's like, fair, but like I'm one of those like I gotta do that for my brain to be able to like not fuck it up when I'm in the trainer or when I'm doing it in real life. Like I have to start with
opposite. I need to
okay.
I need to see and do. I need to see and do, and I can monkey see, monkey do all day.
I need to like start with reading the book, and then I need to stand there and watch a smart kid do it, and then I can sit down. But they would always, they would be like, just sit in the chair, you'll figure it out. And I'm like, no, I won't. I'm gonna melt into a little puddle of goo, dude, because I get overwhelmed when my brain doesn't have the information like encoded, you know. So like, yeah, I'm the opposite, dude. I need to crawl, walk, run, or it's not gonna fucking work right, and I'm gonna get yelled at.
I have to like see it happen and have somebody explain to me what they're doing as it happens.
Yeah.
But there's dumb things when they were like, so there's a maintenance trainer that's just the BCP in the room. The room doesn't move, blah, blah, blah. It's meant for like the Navi T maintenance, right? So I go into that and I took after that first dive and drive trainer, there was no bueno, but
yeah, of course, which like to the shock of absolutely no one.
Oh, right. That didn't prevent me from getting yelled at. There was zero grace given, but
okay. But like, fuck off. Like, I wouldn't hurt my feelings at all. I probably would have been laughing and smirking the whole time. Like, who gives a fuck?
It doesn't hurt my feelings, but I'm one of those dudes that like, So getting yelled at does not
doesn't help
me to do anything.
Yeah.
In the slightest. And when you're in a stressful situation,
yeah,
like, got it. The actual building is not in a jam dive, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
The building does not actually have a hydraulic rupture.
Yeah,
but
and it's also
simulating those things, right?
But I've been taking the boat to PDS dive, and I have the COs yelling at me, the Cobbs yelling at me, and I'm like, shut the fuck up, man. Like, I need to focus on what I'm doing. And if I'm already struggling, you're not fucking helping. And it like drowns out me trying to get like talk to my plainsman and the chief of the watch and all that. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. This is dangerous. Like, it's stupid. I hate that
I'm
shit.
not a fan of like when it's something stressful like that, or like a time sensitive or a critical thing and you're getting yelled.
Yeah.
If I screwed up on some paperwork and a dude wants to yell at me that my paperwork is screwed up, that's fine. It's paperwork.
Yeah.
But when it's like flipping switches and the safety of the ship, like, and or simulated, but still, like, I need to learn it. So it's real. And they're yelling at you about something, I just completely shut down because I'm like, I didn't know what I was doing before.
And now
you did not scream the answer, so that doesn't actually help.
Right. Dude, I started
stare like an idiot.
I started telling everybody to shut the fuck up, man. I became that guy where like I'd tell my officer of the deck to stop talking. I would tell like the Cobb to shut up, or like whoever was there that thought they were helping, except for the only person I didn't say that to was the CO, because the type of dude he is. Andy's a CO. I'm not going to do that in front of control, but like everyone else, I didn't give a fuck. I'm like, you're not in this chair. And like, and I've looked at the Cobb in control and I like, but like, do you want to relieve me? No, then shut up. Like, cause I'm doing shit. You know what I mean? It's like, you could tell me how fucked up it was after we're at PD, but, or whatever we were doing. You know what I mean? Like the diving procedure or surfacing procedure. It's like, it's the worst possible time for a side seat driver. Like, dude, I know, shut the fuck up. And if you want to relieve me because you think you can do it better, standing by to be relieved. And I would say that all the time. That was like my catchphrase, bro. Standing by to be relieved. Like, yeah, don't threaten me with a good time. Like fucking CO used to say that all the time. Like he said one time to me in control, he goes, oh, why do I even have a dive? Like, because I forget I think I might have failed PD because he was the type of dude, he was a fast boat guy. So he was the type of dude that would come in control and he would just want you to do dumb shit. Like he would walk in, I'd be pumping sands and doing a bunch of other shit. And he would come in and be like, off the deck, take the ship to dive on SQ. And I'm like, are you fucking joking? Like I'm in the middle of shit. But he just wanted us to be able to do that. And I got to the point where I could over time. First one was a shit show. Like we just abandoned it. I didn't even get close. But then he would do shit like he'd come in and so like we started doing PD trips where he wanted us to go up slow or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know how to, like, I've never done that. Like I always just do it the way we do it because it's a BN and we don't need to do that. Like we're not a fast boat. We're not a GN.
Right.
And so it's like he would want us to do all these things. And it's like, cool. Can we train on it first? Because like, I'm not going to know. Like I wasn't as experienced as some of those dudes where I could just like adjust in my head. It was like, no, I have a process. And then like when you change a variable, I need to like prepare for that. And it's like, and I kept telling them like, they thought I was a great dive, but I was like, dude, I'm not as good at it as you think I am. I'm good at the routine shit. But when something goes wrong, dude, I'm like, fuck, I don't know, dude. Like one day, we had ESGNs or whatever, the old shit that the boats used to have. And one of them was already fucked up. And then the other one went offline. And apparently that kills all digital indications. So like you're sitting there, it's the mid-watch because of course it is. So you're sitting there and everything just goes, and we're like, oh fuck, like, oh God. And then I realized all the manual indications were still good. I'm like, all right. And I'm just like, all right, we're good. We got manual indications. Everybody drive off that and we'll figure out the fuck's going on. But I like, dude, my soul left my body. I was like, we're so fucked. I am not the person that should be up here for this. Like it was such a fucking shit show, man. But thank God the captain was on the rack and it was a mid-watch too, because he would have come in there and flipped out and then it would have just been nothing, you know what I mean? Like nothing would have went the way it was supposed to.
Yeah.
Fuck.
But
yeah, sorry,
I don't know. Anyway, so I just with the amount of things and realizing that my division was so junior that like everything just takes longer.
Yeah.
And I kind of talked to the CO about that when I checked in. I'm like, hey, listen, you know, I was like, I'm not trying to pretend that I'm like the smartest IT in the world. And I said, but I'm not a dumb chief. I know how to chief. I just need to figure out how to do it in this, how to apply it here. Right.
Right.
So and it's just a different ship. It's a different command. It's a different time. It's whatever.
Yeah.
So there's going to be things that you're going to ask for that I don't know what you're talking about, which means I can't help my dudes much. And if they've never done it, I'm going to walk them through it. It might take me a little bit longer. I might be slower on certain things. Right. I want to make sure they know how to do it. Yeah. Because ultimately, like, who cares, right? I could destroy my knee tomorrow and never be there again, but like my dudes are still going to be there and they need to know.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, and also like you, I would just like, so you had that conversation. I guarantee they're going to come after you for being slow on some shit. And it's just like, I would also like, just like know it's coming, that like, especially if there's a maintenance item, which again, now that you're not the radio guy and like, and I know that's not even real anymore. It's like a fucking whatever it is now.
Or I might,
but like, you know, like
with the next sale, it might be in a couple months.
Well, yeah, the sale was always a thing. Like there's always certain maintenance items that it's like during like refit that it's like, that's what's going to keep the boat in. You know what I mean? Like, so like it comes back, we're doing refit. Yeah. And then like, so when the boat comes back this next time and then you guys take it and you're in refit, it's like there's going to be something that at some point you're holding the football and you're going to be doing the same thing you've been doing where you're walking your guys through it and making sure you're training. It takes you a little bit longer. But it's like especially if it's underway limiting, sweet Jesus. Like one time, I don't know if I've told you this story. One time we did a food load and it was for like we knew we were going to be gone greater than 90 days. So we had a shitload of food and I had a brand new kid check in and we put stuff in the fan room and he found what he thought was a cool little like puka to put stuff in, and it was right in front of the suction for a fan. And so he just jammed these laundry bags full of shit in front of the suction of this fan, like toit like a toiga. And then the fan smoked itself overnight. And I mean, we were supposed to go underway in like a week. And so they had like, and I mean, I got lit on fire. There was a critique. I got counseled, like, but I ate all of it. I didn't tell, I was like, I don't know who did it. I failed to walk through and check everything. And like, I had to write like revise my load plan to include like the areas in the fan room that are off limits. We put like caution tape around certain areas so that people would visually know that you can't do that. I think during the next refit we actually ended up painting it all yellow and black, but yeah, or red or something, I don't fucking know. But yeah, like that kind of shit, like and dude, like if you want to see an 1120 have a fucking stroke, like he was so fucking pissed because it's like they all want to be like admirals when they grow up. So it's just like they just see their career flashing before their eyes because some dumb cook couldn't figure out how to fucking, you know what I mean? Like, oh, BS.
It was luckily minor. The CO and the XO have been super understanding.
Yeah.
The Cobb is just, he just has, I don't know how to say it because a lot of the things that I would describe him or like explain him doing sound bad, but they're not. He is very much like, it's not that he is just like constantly cracking the whip. It's like
he's just stern and like on it.
He pushes everybody and has very high standards. You know what I mean?
I feel like that's the Cobb's job, dude. He's like the constant, like get behind everybody and push. Like he's the constant, like pressure to move forward and to be better and to be on top of shit. Like, so like, and I, you know, like if you're doing it right, you're not going to be anyone's like favorite. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to have many fans and that's cool. Like later in your career you will, but like, I feel like that's
the good thing with this guy is like the crew absolutely loves him.
Oh, good. Awesome. Even better. That means he's killing it. That's dope.
He really is. It's hard when I first show up and I'm like, hey man, like you almost have to treat me like a surface cross rate. You know what I mean? Like, I promise I'm not that. I know how to chief. I just don't know how to do it here. Right. So there's some things you might need to explain. And then like an hour later, it's like, you fucking idiot. Why don't, no, I mean, not really, but like,
yeah. But he's like,
his
but that's
initial
probably
frustrations come out.
Probably reflexive in a way too, because that dude's spinning a lot of plates, you know what I mean? So he probably like, yeah, you told him that, but that doesn't mean he remembered, like 5 minutes, even though it's the same day. It's like that dude's got a lot going on and he's having a lot of conversations, and then he'll probably treat you just like everyone else. And then like, if it gets to be too much and you say something, he's like, dude, I'm sorry. Like I just look at you and see a chief, you know what I mean? You got fish on. Like, yeah. It's not always going to process as part of the calculus. You know what I mean?
No. And he will, like, he's made a few points of like, I don't think people are stupid. I think people do stupid things or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the thing that you did.
Right.
But he is also very understanding of like, I will teach you how to do it once. Mm-hmm. And then now that you've seen how to do it once, like you will do it right from then on.
Right.
And it's not like if you screwed up once, he's going to like end your career.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
But he's not going to politely tell you that you might have missed a step. You know what I mean?
All right.
But like you said, like he's a cop. He's like under permanent stress, just like everybody else.
Right.
And so I get that his like initial reaction sometimes comes off a little hot, but he is like, as soon as he gets like, he settles for a second, takes a deep breath. He's like an extremely good teacher of things. Like, he breaks down the big picture of what's happening and why and how and all that stuff. He does all that stuff really, really well. He's really great with that.
He sounds good, dude.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's just, it's not him, it's me. I am so on the power curve with where I should be at, that I take a lot of it on the chin, and I'm trying to
and you're gonna cool, and that's I feel like that's just like, it's like you kind of knew this was coming. Like, you knew you were gonna have to take your medicine quite a bit, like coming back to a boat and the like during the learning curve portion of readaptation, like you knew this was coming, and you're probably in a way better position than you could have been, because that crapshoot of like, who's gonna be my cob? Like, how's this mess gonna be? What's the command culture gonna be like? So like, it sounds like you got a pretty solid group, man. So like, it could be worse.
No, they really are awesome. I'm super happy with it. It sucks when you show up and it's like, you just feel like an idiot compared to everybody and everything. And that's temporary. I'll learn, I'll be fine.
Right.
And it was nice, because I was like, I don't know, I didn't have an ulcer or anything, but like probably damn near. But I was just like, I was losing sleep. It was not healthy with the amount of stress that I had with just trying to live in my own division, and then trying to like go from effectively not knowing anything about standing chief of the watch to certifying in the trainer. And not just certifying. Did you already certify? We also have. Well, so we went through all that, and I was talking to people. I asked the cop, like, hey, who's the best dude here? And I went and found that guy and said, will you please sit in the trainer with me for hours? During our stand down when the other crew was gone. I kept going over to the trainer, and I was sitting in there by myself with the book for like 3 hours at a time on muster days, just trying to get familiar with basics.
Right.
And like, I was just killing myself trying to do all these things instead of saying like, hey, I can't do this, because at the time there was kind of no option. Like, there was nobody else. We just didn't have enough qualified people to do the things. So it was kind of like, okay, I guess I'm going to be the guy. And I kind of told him like, I'm going to try, but like, you better find a really good dive who knows how to play the game. The diving dive, who can like kind of nudge me here and there. And so he sat down, had a good talk with me for a little bit about it. And the only part that killed me about that was I get a lot of the like, hey man, I get it. When I went to shore duty, like I was rusty when I came back to a boat, and I'm like, yeah, now multiply that by 4, and that's how long it's been,
Like, I know, I get it a little, hard, but like, cause I went to a new class of submarine each time. So like, it was like, but it was like fresh enough that I remembered like the submarining part, but you had to relearn even like how to get on and off the boat, and then like how everything works and where everything is, and like Carter was real weird. And then going to a BN, I mean, it was kind of the same. It was like, yeah, I know how to do my job, but like, I don't know how to do my job here. And it's a lot different on a BN.
Exactly.
So it's like, but it's not like, I wouldn't compare it to like, I got like 20% of what you had, maybe. Like, it's a lot. You're in a very unique scenario, dude. I'm impressed.
It was just hard. Like,
you're dealing with it as well as you are.
Well, it's relative.
Yeah.
But he had said, but so I think last week I talked to him and we were like in the ESM trainer for full days. And I was coming by at lunch trying to do like, just put out 47 fires at one time. Right.
Right.
And I don't have an LPO that I can be like, hey man, can you sit there and drill them in the trainer for me really quick while I go do this thing? And then my counterpart, the radio guy, he's in their trainer at the other end of the hallway, cramming his dudes through, and he's hurting so bad. One of my dudes is standing watch for him underway because he's so shorthanded. So like he doesn't have the bandwidth to have somebody support either.
Yeah.
And so he saw me kind of going back and forth with that, and he flagged me down one of the days, and he's like, hey man, we got orders for this guy that's going to be here before the underway. And so they worked it so that he works the dive and drive now.
Oh, nice.
And so they were basically like, the dude's good. And then
he's already coming that we have orders on. Hyper proficient at this shit.
He teaches it.
Yeah.
And so they basically just said like, hey, come learn our crew's terminology or whatever, you know, everybody's a little bit different on things. And, they moved the watch bill around and he pulled me off the certification.
Good.
But he said I'm still going to need to be there he said I'm still going to be on the watch bill for the underway, which is kind of
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he means immediately or I don't know. It's weird.
Right. I mean, you should be, but he'll probably only have you on there when the boat's not alert and when there's no outside entities on board. You know what I mean? Like, so he'll probably put you on there to get proficient just doing regular shit, transiting and stuff. And then when you get to like the box that you're going to be in, and it's near alert. Because when you're alert, it's like there's a lot of stuff that happens that you can't fuck up. Like, so it's like,
exactly.
Yeah, he's going to want probably a more experience. And then, you know, like after this patrol, you'll have all that experience. Then you'll get to go through all the shit next, you know, off crew where you're doing all the training, and then you'll be ready to just be the guy, and it won't be, it won't be a thing. So
and so that's where like, whatever. So that like, as soon as he told me that, he was like, I just want to let you know, it's not because I don't think that you could do it. It's not the blah, blah, blah. He's like, I just, between talking to you, seeing you around the office, talking to other people that you've talked to, like, this is not. Like, this is not healthy for you.
No. And that's the main point. Like, you could figure it out, but your division's going to suffer a lot because like because when you're underway and you're standing that 8 hours a day, like when the fuck are you going to be there for your division? You know what I mean? And then they're going to want you to do a bunch of other shit when you're off watch that has nothing to do with your division probably. And so it's like, man, like you're going to need some time. Like when I checked back into to Louisiana, I had an SMI that first patrol, and I checked in just like you, where I like caught the off crew. So like the boat was there and then they left. So I got to like go down there and check it out and see it. And then they left, and I got to like spend the entire off crew doing all the admin and getting all the binders ready and training my guys and doing all this stuff. And then I went and watched a buddy. Well, he wasn't at the time, but he became one because he's an awesome dude. But I went down to Nevada and watched them load food and asked the dude all kinds of questions. And he was like, he was amazing. He was probably the best chief on the waterfront, if not on the West Coast. And he was taking me around and just showing me all his shit and how to do it and what works best and all this kind of stuff. And so that was awesome. And then like I told them, I'm not like, they handed me all my requal cards when I checked in. I'm like, no. I was like, I'm not. I'm a senior. I was a senior chief already. I was just like, no, I'm not doing this until after SMI. As soon as SMI is over, put me on the watch bill, and I'll be a UI until I'm requalled and all that bullshit. But like until SMI is over, no, I'm not doing it. I don't give a fuck how anybody feels about it. Like, and they were just like, all right, that's fair, you know, because they had done poorly on their last SMI too. So, but yeah, like I think that's it. Now that they can allow it, that's 100% the move. Is like you got to fire a boat. Like that's
I do, and I'm stoked about it. But like I said, nobody wants to be like the problem child. Like nobody wants to suck at their job.
Yeah. Right.
And so it's hard for me too, because historically I have not sucked at my job.
Yeah. Well, you'll get there though. Like I have no doubt. So it's like, and
I know I will.
You're ripping a Band-Aid off right now, you know?
It's an unfamiliar, uncomfortable place for me to be in that I do not enjoy.
Yeah.
But it's temporary, just like everything else.
Right.
It's just, I feel bad because like, if you were to ask me, like before I came here, right, it was like, yep, I'm going to go, I'll qualify the couple of things I got to qualify. I'll dominate. And really I don't need to dominate anything. I just need to qualify things I need to qualify.
Yeah.
I can finish dive. I can finish my cob card, and then I can move on with my career and start what I really want to do.
Right.
And if you asked me like 3 weeks ago, I would have been like, I'm looking for car batteries to play soccer with, and I can't wait to be done. And
I was going to ask you about that, because I forget, you sent me a message somewhere saying something to that effect. Yeah. So like what changed? Like what was going on then? It's just
the level of like, again, it's like when I look around, I almost wish that it was a bad boat, because then I could be like, this is not normal. This is just a bad boat.
Right.
But when I look around, I'm like, no, we're actually a really good boat, or a really good crew.
Yeah.
And these dudes are all really successful at what they do. Like everything is great. I just suck. But then it's like, if this is the level of stress that I have with a good boat, like I have no interest in doing this again. You know what I mean?
But you're not doing it again though. You know what I mean? Like you'd be the cob. So it's
gonna be the same thing. You're gonna be in the same.
I don't know.
So like I talked to my buddy who he came out here on a decom boat, right? I worked with him for a while in Groton, and then he went to go be a cob, and their fast boat decom came out here.
Yeah.
And so I ran into him on final night and was talking to him about it, and was asking him how it was. And he's like, dude, it's the best job in the world. I absolutely love it. And I've never heard a cob not say that, that was like their favorite time ever. And which I get.
I mean, I've met a few that, I don't know that they would say they didn't like times. They just had a bad time in the job. I don't know that they would even say that it wasn't their favorite job. It just didn't go well. Like, and it became like one of my cobs got relieved, and it wasn't like a Navy Times relieved. It was just like they kind of like gave him a graceful-ish exit. Yeah, like a soft fired
landing somewhere else.
Yeah. And then he kind of rode out his time and retired. But like, and he wasn't a bad guy. He just shouldn't have been a cob. Like he wanted to be a master chief. And so he went that route, and it's like, but he should have never been allowed to do it, you know? And it's like, not a bad dude though.
So when I was talking to my buddy about it though, he was like, he just kept going on. It was the greatest thing ever, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And I said, like, dude, how stressful, like how bad was whatever. And he was like, dude, it's not at all anymore. Like with where he's at in life, I think you find your voice, you find all that stuff. And you're not worried if some dude's yelling at you. You can laugh at him and tell him like, no, I'm not doing that. And you walk away.
Right. Right.
And it takes a certain level to get there. But like, whether that's because you are, like I feel like people tend to get to that position when you feel like you are at your terminal pay grade.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Worrying about that.
Even
he's a master chief, he ain't
but even if you're not, like when you're a senior chief and you're the cob, I feel like you're going to gain some of that as long as you're not one of those people who attaches too much value to getting the second star. Because it's probably going to happen no matter what. If you know, as long as you don't get fired. But like, I have no doubt that you'll be fine. It's just like I mean, I did it as a senior chief on Louisiana, and I wasn't even the cob. Like, I was just like, I'm at my terminal pay grade, and I hope I make master chief, but I behaved as if I was at my terminal pay grade. And I very much was like, I mean, the EDMC was the EDMC and he was a great dude, but he didn't really care because he's just a great guy that was very focused on the nuke part of everything. And he was involved in the department chief things, but he wasn't like one of those dudes that cared if he wasn't at the forefront of power. He was way more concerned about the engine room and the nukes and the people. And he was an awesome guy. Yeah, he was just an awesome dude.
Yeah.
But like I was with me and him, it was like I was the most influential dude in the Chiefs mess that wasn't the Cobb. And you know, like so Mark was too, I would say. Like he was, if he wanted to be, you know, like, but he was mostly just focused on his shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I don't know where that confidence came from. I did go into it with an intention of like, I'm not going to be in another mess where I'm not the leader. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to be a leader in the mess. Like granted, I'm not the Cobb, but I'm going to function like as if I am without it, like stepping on his toes. And because my job's to support that dude. So like I'm supporting the Cobb, but like when I'm not, when I'm supporting him, I'm going to function in the other direction as if I'm the guy, you know, because I'm kind of auditioning for the role too. You know what I mean? Like that's next in my mind.
Right. But the hard part with a lot of that is like, there's a fine line between like, I'm going to tell anybody and everybody if I think that they're wrong and what, you know, time and place and blah, blah, blah. But like, there's a time when you're going to have that mentality and you're going to be that voice. But in the back of my head, I'm still thinking like, I got 2.5 more years that I'm living with these people, that I'm dealing with this. So like, sure, everybody can say the stupid line of like, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to do a job. Like, sure, man, but you got to live with all those people that hate you. Like that makes your life miserable. You know what I mean? But I
don't even think like, that approach
some level of.
Yeah. I don't think that approach is even the way to get that done. I think like your buddy, like the place that, especially because of who you are and how you operate and your personality and everything, it's like, you achieving that level of like peace with all that stuff to where it's not going to stress you out to a point that's not good. You know, like I think you arriving at that mental space has more to do with you just making peace with the fact that like, I'm not in the rat race of competing for promotions and positions anymore. I'm just here to do what I do and I'm going to do it very well. And the rest of that dude, like, I know it sounds corny to a lot of people, but like when you do it that way, the rest of the shit just kind of takes care of itself. And it's like, you're going to get promoted. You're going to get like people that get behind you and push for you to be a Cobb. You're going to get, you already have. And it's like when you put on a star, which you will, and then if you decide to go the Cobb route, like, dude, I think like, when you get done with this boat, you're going to be in a place, unless you decide to go the other way and just clock out. It's like, I think you're going to be in a place where you're not even going to recognize the dude you are now. And you're going to have a good amount of that, like feeling, that type of confidence of like that you can do it. But you also need to kind of do what you're doing where you're putting yourself in all these uncomfortable positions to like do the thing. Cause like to me, ship's control and topside line handling were the two things that terrified me. Everything like, and I would say the same for you, like the leadership and management of people, that fucking, I got that locked the fuck down. And so do you.
Right.
And so it's like, in my mind, it's like, yeah, you gotta like to succeed during this tour, you got to do all the shit we already talked about. But then to get to the place where you feel like you can be the Cobb that you want to be, and have that type of a comfort level. And in my mind, I was like, I need a fucking PhD in topside safety and I need a PhD in ship's control. And I don't fucking have it. And I have just as much experience as you at ship's control. Like I showed up to my 3rd submarine. I stood a little bit of chief of the watch on Carter. And a lot of duty chief. And that was it. And then I showed up to Louisiana as a senior chief. And they're like, you're going on the watch bill as soon as you get requalified. And I'm like, I've never really been on the watch. Like I was up there a little, but I wasn't really on the watch bill. like in section. And it's like, that's all I fucking did when we were at CL Louisiana. I just stood all the watch 3 section, like constantly. I was never the kick. Like my cobb told me, he was like, you're going to be like a split kick. And then I was in section for the whole fucking time I was there. Cause I had the, misfortune of being good at it. And so he was just like, oh, you're like the dive, like you're my guy.
That's kind of what I keep thinking is like, I know that like, I will not be where I am now in 2.5 years.
Yeah.
If so, then sweet Jesus. But if you were to ask me like today, I'm like, nope, this is, I don't know why I ever came back. This is dumb. This sucks. I hate it. But dude, I know that I will not be like a year from now, I will be in a very different spot and I will be fine. And so by the time I leave here, I will have a different perception and we'll see how it goes. I'm still very much trying to do the, like, I'm still going to work on those quals. I still have my cobb card. I will still get that worked on. I'm just trying to work. I'm trying to focus on being competent because I don't like doing things that I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
And so I'm just trying to get competent at Chief of the Watch. And then once I feel comfortable, I don't need to be the best, but just comfortable.
Yeah, you really don't.
Focus on dive.
Yeah.
And then
you need to be like slightly above average at Chief of the Watch. And then you need to be fucking good at dive. Like, but you don't need to be, and it like I say that, but it's not as hard as you think it is on a BN, and it's like, and if all your dive experience is on a BN, you're very likely going to be a cobb on a BN. And so it's like,
but so even if I'm not great at doing, like, it's one of those positions where like, I don't need to be great at sitting it myself. I need
you need to be great at supervising it,
teach it, and supervising it. I need to be able to teach somebody when they're doing right or wrong, right or wrong.
But you need to have like a high level of knowledge so that you can do that really well. But you need to be like good at it so that you know what good looks like. But you don't need to be the best dive ever, but you do need to have a very high level of knowledge so that you can do what you just said. 100%. But I think like, one of the things that might help mentally is like, if you think about it, like, cause how many years you got in right now? Like 15, 16, something like that. 17.
March will be 17.
So so like at the end of this tour, you could retire, right? Pretty much.
I'll be at 19 when I transfer.
Okay. So like I would look at it.
My contract takes me to 22. So I still have a shore duty after this.
Yeah. So you have like 2 years of a shore duty. So you could like, the way I would think about it is like, because that's kind of what I did on Louisiana. Like I was pursuing being a cobb, and at the end of that tour, I don't want fucking anything to do with it. And then I went to group and was like, Gabe got me all gassed up again. And then I was like thinking about it, and then all the shit happened and I changed my mind and retired. But it's like, you can look at it like you're going to like, I'd bet money. Like you're going to leave that boat as senior chief, either damn close to or actually qualified cobb. And so you're going to have the choice of going that route if you feel like you've got the gas left to do it and you still want to do it, or you can just punch out. And it's like, you go to shore duty and just spend 2 years getting ready to retire and punch out. And it's like, that they're both very like viable and good options. Cause it's like, you know what I mean? Like, cause you're going to walk into like some crazy high paying fucking Amazon cloud service job or some bullshit. And then it's like, so it's like it's a win-win. You just got to decide what you want to do. And it's like, I would continue to pursue it as if you're going to be a cobb so that you do have that decision tree. But like, it's kind of like, if everything goes sideways and you just decide this shit ain't for me, then just be a fucking dope chief and then go to shore duty and retire. So it's like, like in my mind, like you being that stressed out about it, it's like, maybe that helps kind of curb some of that shit. Cause like, who cares? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like you're not going to fuck up taking care of your people. Like I know that for a fact. The rest of it is like, you just got to get proficient at the job part and then do the submarining, like the ship's control shit is like, who are you going to piss off, the cobb and the CO? Maybe your watch section gets a little butthurt until you figure it out. But like you're not going to kill anybody. You're not going to.
No, my problem is, I talked to a dude a while ago, one of my buddies who he retired. And he was he was at the waiting on a boarding a check ride to go be a cob.
Yeah, same.
And he would just kind of went, nope, never mind, I'm done, and checked out.
Same.
And when somebody's asked him, they were like, why, like, did you not think you could go be a cob or whatever? And he said, no, 100% I would do it.
Oh, yeah.
Do it successfully. Because I don't know if I would do it well, but I would complete a successful cob tour, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, the problem is he knows himself well enough to know that, like, he would be the guy that's there till he would be doing 20 hours on the boat every day. He would be doing all these things. He would be stressing himself into ulcers and then not saying anything because he doesn't want to take a day off to go get mental health help. And he's like, he would be the guy that runs himself ragged to make sure that it gets done. And he was like, that's not good. That's not healthy. And he doesn't want to be in that position anymore if he doesn't have to be. So he got out. And I was kind of like, man, that's smart that he's that aware. And I think I'm at the same spot where, like, it would be so much better if I just checked in and was like, hey, look, I have no interest in going anywhere. I don't want to do it. Like, I'll be your bottom P for 3 years. I don't care. I'm going to take care of my guys. And if, whatever the case is, right? I'm going to be safe, but I'm not trying to promote. I'm not trying to do these things.
I wouldn't tell anybody
but that's not me. I can't do that.
No, I know. But even if you did, I wouldn't tell anybody that because it's like how they treat you is going to change for sure. Like, I wouldn't tell anybody that.
But my problem is, like, I'm that guy that will stress myself to death.
Same.
Sure
I'm
good at what I do.
Same. Like, so I
look at it.
Good. Sorry.
I just keep thinking about the feeling that I have now in this period of time until I'm comfortable. And then I realize that I'm going to have the same thing, but different when I go to a boat. If I go to a boat as a cob, I'm going to have the same time span where I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable. I'm going to stress myself out. And I just think, like, do I want to do this again? Like, this doesn't sound that fun right now,
Yeah.
Like, my life doesn't sound that awesome right now. So, like, do I really want to do it again? But I'm just the kind of guy that's too stubborn to want to walk away not knowing. Like, sure, people would, like, not many, but like you, Aaron, whatever, will be like, oh, you could go be a cob. You'd be just fine. And it's like,
you could be, but you don't have to be.
But then in my head, it's like, I don't know if I could be unless I do it. You know what I mean?
I mean,
I hate leaving something on the table.
I felt
that kills me.
I felt really similarly. And I mean, I was on the fence till the last second, man. Like, I was, even after I made Master Chief, which was after cancer and all that stuff. And my CMC Gabe came to me and he goes, when I made it, he's like, so what are you going to do? And I was just like, cause we had talked about it a bunch, and, he asked me and I was like, I don't know, man, I was like, give me a few weeks for the novelty of this to wear off. And then I'll be able to, like, actually answer that question, because right now I'm excited about making 9. It's very validating. I always said I wanted to go back to a boat as a Master Chief cob, because I feel like I'm starting at a handicap being a cook, and I'm going to have to overcome that. So I didn't want to have to overcome, like, being a senior chief also with certain people.
Right. And,
I mean, it took like 3 days, and then I was like, I already knew. I was like, nah, I'm done, dude. And I still, like, there's still and I'm very at peace with where I'm at now and the decision I made, but, like, there's still that little tiny part of me in the back of my mind that's like, yeah, but what if, like, and I arrived at that, like, I was super conflicted until I had a conversation with my cob on Carter, Eric, the dude that I talk about him all the time, but him and I got on the phone because he had cancer as well. He had throat cancer, and I didn't know that, and I found out he posted something on Facebook, and that's how I found out, and or maybe I did. I don't know. One of the two, but, like, one of us found out the other way, and he's like, oh, I had throat cancer. And then he's like, we should catch up, man. And so we got on the phone and talked for like 2 hours, and we were talking about the cancer stuff and all that. But then we got on he asked me how everything's going and career stuff and whatever. And we ended up on that topic, and he's like my chief dad. Like, he's the dude that he was my cob when I made chief, and he, like, taught me what a chief was and how to conduct myself and what's important and all that. And, so when we were talking, so first of all, I thought for like when I was a baby chief, I thought Eric would have not thought like if you had asked me, I would have been like, yeah, he wouldn't want me to be a cob, like, or he wouldn't think I could be a cob or whatever.
Right.
And that evolved over time, like as I kind of grew up doing this. And I don't know how long he's been listening to or aware of the podcast, but it's been a minute. And so like he's I think he has a way better understanding of me as like a leader and stuff like that, because of that. And then like when we were on the phone, he said two things. He said, one, you would have been a really great cob, or you would be a really great cob, but you don't have to be. And then we talked about that a little bit. But when he said that, it was like, that was what I was waiting to hear. I needed him to give me permission. You know what I mean? And I don't know that anybody else could have done it. Maybe Gabe, but like, I think it had to be him. And I didn't even know I needed to hear it until I did. And then it was like, as soon as he said it, dude, I was just like, it all just went away. You know what I mean? Like, and cause I knew it was the right answer. Like everything you just described about your buddy was like almost exactly what I was going through. Like I knew I would be good at it. I was concerned about the ship's control and the topside safety stuff, just because those are the two things that you can like, but those are the two things that I didn't feel hyper competent at. And those were the two things where like people could get hurt or killed, or we could break the ship and shit like that. So it's like, those were the two things that I was always going to be worried about, but I knew I was going to be a good cob. Like there was no doubt in my mind. And I had this drive to like that, like, kind of like a Napoleon complex, but for CSs. Like I wanted to show everybody that the cook chief could fucking kill it as a cob, you know, like I was going after a Frank Lister award, but also like I was just to throw it in their face. Not that I should have been doing that, but that was my mentality. But then there was also like the exact same thing. Like I had conversations with my wife where I was just like, she was kind of encouraging me to do it because she thought I would regret not doing it forever and it would eat at me and stuff. And so she was kind of pushing me to do it. And I was like, yeah, but do you know what that's going to look like? Like, I was like, you're going to have to like help me balance, because I'm going to fucking stay at work until 9 p.m. every night. Like I'm going to never leave the submarine. And it's like, and I'm going to be just going hard in the paint all the time. And like, and I was terrified it was going to wreck my marriage. And then making the decision after cancer and everything. So now I'm physical and mental health are an issue. And so I'm just like, dude, if I went back to a boat to be a cob and did it the way I know I'm going to do it, I'd be like tab alpha'd inside 6 months for mental health and just God knows what else. Like if I didn't have a fucking heart attack or a stroke. So it's like, yeah, that's a very real concern. And it's like, so like it all kind of like conspired to make that decision. But like, even with all that in my head, I was still super conflicted until I had that conversation with Eric. And that was like, I was actively looking, but like kind of like unconsciously actively looking for that. And then he validated me like being like wanting to retire. Like I knew it was the right decision, but I was super conflicted. And I probably would have decided to stick around anyway. Because of what you're describing, like that feeling of like, yeah, I have to know, you know? And it's like, but I don't have to. And making Master Chief helped a lot too. I was telling Gabe that like, it was extremely validating when I made 9 without being a cob. Like it was, and I didn't even think about it that way, but like, the guy I worked with, my counterpart, the LS, he was like, he was basically saying, I was like, it still would have been nice to be a cob. He's like, yeah, but think about it. Like every cob that doesn't get fired pretty much makes Master Chief because they completed a successful cob tour. He goes, you made it without even doing a fucking cob tour. Like that's how much more badass it is. And I was just like, didn't really look at it that way, but okay. You know, like it is harder to just do it in rate, you know, and I don't know, but
I don't mean it as like a knock on you, but in my head it's like there's a difference between when you're a cob,
you're a command master chief essentially, right? I get it,
right, but you're not good. Like I look at it as like you were the top of the cook game, not necessarily. And I get that leadership has to.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
But
And
you
that's
made it in the SME role. And
yeah,
like for me, I have no interest in being the best IT in the world.
Yeah,
best
no,
or whatever.
I 100% get it, man. I wanted a cookie in my shadow box. You know what I'm saying? Like I wanted that cookie bad, and but it's like that shit was gonna kill me, bro. It really like that's the after I got that piece, like after that like burden of like feeling an obligation to the people that thought I would be good at it. Because dude, I had all the CMCs and all those types that were like, dude, I can't wait to see you when you're a cob. You're gonna be such a good cob. Blah 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 blah. I had podcast listeners
puts weird pressure on you.
Yeah, like I had so many people going, man, I can't, like, I would love to be on your boat. Like, God, that would be so fucking cool. You're gonna be such a dope cob. Like people telling me they wanted to see me as like a force master chief in a fucking fleet and shit. And I'm just like, so like all that pressure of like all these expectations that you like, I felt like I had to do it. I felt like because all those people said all those things and expect all this success from me, like I felt like I had to do it for them. And it was like letting them down if I didn't. And then it was like when Eric said, you don't have to be, I was just like, all that shit melted away. And I was just like, thank God, like I can retire. You know what I mean? And like, it's all the logic in the world aren't going to overcome those feelings. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's also hard for me too, with just on the practical matter of like, I'll be at 21, probably 22 years starting a cob tour. Right. So then I finished that at 25.
Yeah.
And then I would go do shore duty because I'm
not like a CMC probably
to get out of the Navy.
Yeah.
Right. But so then that puts me to 28. Right. And before I get out. So I'm like, okay, do I want to get out at 22 or 28? And then I just keep thinking like, what's outside of my own, personal chip that I want to, my own personal checklist.
I mean, your pension will be a lot better.
Gain me?
Your pension will be a lot better. Like 20-something% better. But yeah, I mean, I get it.
But you know what I mean? Like that's
I'm with you.
Different. So I don't know. That's all in there too.
Speaking of strokes and heart attacks, so I like probably it was a couple weeks ago I started having like chest pains, like not constantly, but like I think it was about 2 weeks ago. It was like right kind of in the middle, just like these sharp pains, and they would last like maybe 10 seconds and then go away. And no shortness of breath, no crazy like elevated heart rate or like my arm or whatever, any of that shit. But like that. And it kept happening. And I got concerned to a point because like one of Ashley's coworkers, he was like 34 and he died of a heart attack just randomly. And like young healthy dude, had kids, and like it was wild. I'll edit this out too. I don't want to like put people's shit out there, but and then so I went to the doctor yesterday. I think it was yesterday. And they did a EKG or whatever and said everything looked fine then, but it's like they're like nothing's you're not, whatever this isn't happening right now, so like it might be a thing. So I have this like, I don't know if I have this like bump right here. Can you see that? Like that outline right there?
Not really. It's kind of blurry on the side anyway.
I have this they put it's a heart monitor, but it's like this little device with like these 2 sensors, and like it's probably like that big, and it's stuck to my chest. They had to like shave the hair, and just like they actually like used this shit that was like sandpaper on my skin too, so it would adhere. I'm like, fuck. It did not feel good. But so I put, whenever it happens, I have to like push this button so it records the shit to see like if I have heart issues, which it hasn't happened the same way. Like the last night I had like it was like discomfort, but it wasn't the same thing. And so I pushed the button just cause it was weird. But like, I haven't had any of them since they put this shit on me. And I'm like, dude, I have to wear this shit for 2 weeks. I can't do jujitsu. I can't cold plunge. I can't do fucking anything cool for 2 weeks. And I'm like, it was probably because I worked out in my garage and did push-ups and I just pissed my chest off or whatever. But it didn't feel like a muscle thing. So I'm like, it's going to be like, it's not even going to fucking happen now. And I'm going to wearing this dumbass thing for 2 weeks for no fucking reason. But tell me about the Chiefs season. Let's do that. I'm excited to hear about it. Cause I outside of just talking to selectees remotely, I had zero involvement this year. I just like my head wasn't in it.
I was going to give you a hard time about it a few times until you.
That's fine. And
5:30 in the morning.
That's dude. If somebody had invited me to something, like Ariana wanted me to come to her pinning and she's in fucking Maryland. And that was like, she asked me that and I was just not in the best headspace to like,
it's just the logistics of money to do that too.
Well, that and like air travel is my idea of hell, man. I fucking hate air travel. And like with my anxiety and not sleeping well and like I need my routine at home to like keep me from like being in a bad way, but also like I was about to start school too. I started the fall semester. Like it would have started like right as I was leaving to go out there. So I was just like, dude, I really wanted to be there, but I didn't. The shit I would have to do to get there, you wouldn't want me around. Like I'd be fucking miserable. So yeah, I had like zero. I would have come, like if you had invited me to some shit, I would have showed up. So like if there's any DGUTS fans on the boat, fucking let me know, dude. I'm happy to like show up to local shit. That's a joke. But I didn't want to be at final night or nothing. That was another thing where I was like, I'm gonna fucking flip out and I'm a guest. Like I'm gonna see some shit I don't like and I'm gonna lose it and I'm gonna be that guy. And I'm like, I don't want to do that to people. I don't want to ruin the moment or be an asshole or any of that. So I'm like, I don't think I'm in a good enough place to be in that environment, but I'd show up to like a training or whatever. If anybody wanted me to come give training or just hang out or whatever, man, I'm down for that.
So it was kind of interesting because we had the sub-pack sailor of the year on our boat. So
really?
He found out like months ago that he made
Pereira?
No.
Aubrey Pereira? Okay. Okay, he was an LS that I knew from back in the day, but he made it off that shit, I think.
So then he might have been the other one. I don't know how that works.
Maybe.
But
I don't know.
Maybe it's the C and
yeah, maybe he was sub-lant or something.
There's like 16. I don't know. There's like 16 people I think now that make it.
Yeah, there's a lot more. But, I know that, but I don't know who they are. Because Ariana and Desiree both competed for that shit for whatever, whoever, fucking whatever group they were in. I don't know.
And so he's an awesome dude. But so it was funny because when I checked into the boat, we're underway. I walked into the Chiefs quarters, just kind of looking around, said hey to the handful of people that are there. I'm the new guy, obviously.
Right.
And so they all introduced themselves, whatever. And then in the corner was this dude laying down first class. And he sits up and he's like, oh, hey, I'm Chief Select. And he's got like a big old grin on his face when he said it. But he was talking to the cob when I walked in. And so I thought it was just a joke because he was in the Chiefs quarters when I walked in, right? So I just blew it off. And then I heard like the next day or something, somebody referred to him as Chief Select. And I was like, so I went back into the Chiefs quarters. And this, again, like, a month before the results.
So he just had like a 6-month long Chiefs season living in the Chiefs quarters and shit?
Not really.
No?
So that was so I went in there and at one point I was like, what's the deal with this Chief Select thing? And they're like, oh, he won the blah blah blah. He already knows he made it, yada yada yada. Gotcha. So I was like, oh. And I was like, what's happening with that? I've never seen that.
Yeah,
like, I know that it happens. I'm not like amazed that it's happening.
I thought they pinned and put it on and shit. I didn't know they waited.
Yep, he just knew his name.
That's cool. Because they used to. They used to pin them like that fucking the day when they were in DC or whatever and they found out, they put it on. So it was like, I always thought that was weird.
That was before I paid attention to any of that. Yeah. So I don't know exactly those things. I've heard stories from people though when it was, because it used to only be like 4 people.
Yeah, yeah.
Had like
it was like
a sea and shore pack.
Sea and shore. And that was it. Yep. And that was it.
And so he had told me, I'd heard a story that like when that happened, those 4, I don't know if they got pinned immediately or not, but they effectively went TAD to like the MCPON's office and they kind of traveled around with him and just did like PR stuff and helped out with whatever he was doing until the season. You went through the season with him and then you got redistroed to wherever you're supposed to go.
Oh, that's weird.
So you're effectively just gone as soon as you found out you made it.
Super weird.
And I don't know. Again, that's what I heard. I don't know anybody that did that.
I don't know either.
So who the hell knows? But anyways, so it was kind of weird. But aside from it's there's nothing that tells you what to do really with the season in general, right? But especially with, I mean, not
tell me about it,
day-to-day details,
but
there's nothing that tells you what to do with those people who find out of the abnormal way. And so, it was a mix of, he had been the acting chief for about a year anyways, cause he didn't have one. And he was, I think I want to say just like partially due to rack space, that there was space in the Chiefs quarters. And so somebody had said that when it came out, they talked to him and they basically said, hey, what do you, like, kind of where do you want to sleep type deal? And so he just moved into the Chiefs quarters. He slept in there, but that was it. He never really hung out in there. He went through to go to bed, shower and change, and then leave again.
You said he was laying on the bench, so I was just like, this dude's just chilling in the Chiefs quarters as a Chief select. Like he's a Chief.
He was just. I think it's because he was talking to the cop about something.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Important. Like, he's a nuke, and I got on with Orson, so he was sitting there talking to the cop about something with Orson, I'm sure.
Gotcha.
But and then I think it was kind of awkward as to what to do, and so we said, they gave him a copy of the orders for the season, but they blacked out everything except for the page about his charge book and or part of the thing about his charge book. Long story short, they told him, go get a plain green book. He didn't decorate, didn't tell him how to do anything about it, but it explained, like, go get charges from our crew at least. Okay. And so he was only allowed to talk to our crew.
Small head start.
Yeah, exactly. Like a tiny head start. And that was it. And so it was good talking to everybody, but it was also weird because I was there for like 4 days, and then he sat me down and asked if he could have a charge. Yeah. So I was talking to him, but it's also like, I don't know you at all. So it's kind of weird in that sense.
Yeah.
Not that you can't give charges to people you don't know, but it definitely helps when you know the person.
Yeah.
And then you give them more pertinent things to them.
Right.
But like then but then also he had no context of the season around it. So it was a little weird also, but it was fine. And then, so we had the season, we made technically 8, but one of them was my dude who transferred like less than a month before. So,
so he had 7.
We counted it. He made it with us. He was,
but that's a lot. You 7.
It's a lot.
I mean, even 7's a lot. I feel like
this boat crushes it, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah. That's dope.
And so we had 7 that were here for the season, and the season, it is what it is. Like, it was, we're in the
do it with region and stuff.
The only downside is, most of the things. The downside is that was in the middle of our stand down period, so we had to tweak everybody's leave periods. So like all the Chiefs took leave before, because as soon as stand down is over, you have trainers till you die. And so you can't take leave afterwards. So it's basically everybody had to squeeze in leave beforehand, or just not take it, so that everybody could be in. I think our rule was like no more than 2 Chiefs on leave at a time during stand down. And so we could be there for the season and do all the things.
Right.
Which it sucks, but it is what it is. Right. And so, sure, we did all the trainings, we did all the things. 7 is a lot for a boat, but that also kind of makes it hard because, the higher the numbers, the less coordinated they can get with anything, because nobody knows how to do anything. Like if there was 3, they could figure out and make a decision. Right? But when there's 7, nobody can make a decision about anything, and yada, yada, yada. But the only real like big noteworthy interesting part to the season, I guess, was it was hard because when a lot of things would happen, because I don't know how this crew does things. Like every command is different, every quarters is different, at least a little bit. I can't say that I know how this Cobb operates because I've never seen a season with him.
Right.
And it was kind of weird because all of the season planning things happened while our crew was gone. And so when we get back, a lot of it was just kind of like, hey, I guess this is what the region is doing. This is what we're going to do.
So long for the ride.
Yeah, and so it's hard because you have opinions on it, but also anybody that's done things with planning anything, especially with the Chief season, is like nothing is worse than having the people that show up the day of an event and tell you that you did it wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you could have told me that a month ago when we had meetings about this. And,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Yep. So we were trying to just kind of be participants, but not like the loudest guy in the room type deal.
Yeah.
And the only real noteworthy part about that though was for final night. So we had our CO showed up for part of it. We made a big point to tell most of, I think they told basically everybody in the wardroom, like, you guys are invited to come to any of this. If you want to come hang out and watch and learn and like see what this is about, then do it.
The Chiefs did that, or the selects did that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, the Cobb, like the region is saying that, like, hey, if you're COs, XOs, you got department heads that want to come, bring them.
Yeah, I could see COs and XOs, department heads. I'm like, I've never heard that before. I can't say I disagree or anything. I'm just like, that's new. Like, I've never.
So exactly. It was new to me.
Yeah.
And so, but it's hard for me to have an opinion to say like, I like this or I don't, because as far as I know, it's what's always happened out here. I don't know. It's my first season out here.
It's not what's always happened historically up till I retired. Like, I was out here for the bunch of Carter seasons and then Louisiana seasons, but we were underway for one of those, I think.
A couple, I'm sure.
But yeah, I mean, like, it's not normal historically. It's not like I've never seen officers, but a lot of the times it was a Mustang that used to be a chief, or it's the CO, you know what I mean? Or COXO, right. But that was it. Like, I've never seen anybody below an XO.
Where did you see CO and XO involved in though?
We would do charge book ceremony type thing where the COs, like, everybody did a little different, but like so the year I made it, we were on the Turtleback in front of Group 9. Well, the COs and the Cobbs were up there, and we were all in lines in front. They told us to line up in front of our CO, and so they had the boat CO and the detachment OIC were doing, because we had the detachment guys too, and. Yeah, we just walked up and presented our charge book to the CO, and they did their and I think they had already done it, so it was like he was giving me back my book or something. Yes. Yeah, some shit like that, because I didn't have my book. But
what I've seen in the past, granted, there was like 20 something people at say sub school, or before that it was kind of a hodgepodge, but usually it'd be like you sit down with your Cobb, you get your he's usually the last chief to sign it, and then when he signs it, they would, like at sub school, he would keep them because it takes him a while. He would talk to everybody, and then he would take them home and write them for the night.
Yeah.
And then he would give them to the CO, and the CO would write everything all night across 20 some odd books.
Yep.
And then at the ceremony is when he would present them back to you, and he would talk to everybody.
Yeah. In the group. The only other time I've seen a CO is I have seen, we did it with a recruiting district, and they did MAST, where like or DRB and MAST or some stupid shit, where it was like, I think they were doing DRB and they had the CO like hiding, and they were just like, okay, like, oh, you're gonna say that to the CO, huh? Like, and then they brought him out, and you see, it was a cool effect because the fucking selectees, all the blood draining out of their face. They're like, oh, fuck. Because he heard everything they said, too. Right. But also, like, why are we doing NJP? That's not real and shit. Like, I wasn't a fan of it. I was a fan of the CO involvement. I wasn't a fan of what we were doing. It was in
Connecticut. I liked it, and they did something very similar here. It was just a slightly different execution. In Connecticut, they did it as a. They said, "Hey, you're going to get counseled, or you're going to have to counsel like and all of them had the same type of scenario. Like your Divo, he shows up, you smell booze.
Oh yeah. And then the Divo's the captain.
Or he shows up late or whatever, right? There's some reason that you need to sit down and tell your Divo that he's all jacked up.
Oh, that's awesome. I like that.
They did it.
I like that.
They did it with blindfolds on. So they would sit down and start talking to him. and they just start talking.
That's cool.
Dude. And in their head, they're probably just like, oh, they're just
talking to an ensign,
talking to some other chief. No,
yeah,
like,
or that, yeah, that that's fair.
To a chief who's pretending,
yeah,
right,
pretending, yeah.
And so, like, if you can,
that's
see that,
fucking cool.
Like,
I like that.
They would start talking, and it was great because the COs had a whole watch bill. They were rotating through tons of COs in the area.
Yeah,
and it was great in Groton because, like, we had a handful of full birds. There would be what is he, a 1-star, I think, or 2-star that's there. I don't remember, but they were all in on it, and they would all sit there. And it, like, my favorite was this one guy who's like, you know, sir, like, you've been showing up super late, and you've been leaving early, and you're behind on all these things, whatever. But anyways, the CO is sitting there, and he's like, yeah, dude, but like, come on, bro. And he keeps going on, keeps calling him dude. And he's like, sir, please. He's like, I'm glad that you feel comfortable with me, but you know, it's chief. I'd appreciate if you address me as chief. Like, just give me that respect. I address you as sir, whatever. And he was like, all right, I'm sorry, bro. And he'd shift from dude to bro, or just something like that. And eventually this one dude started getting spun up, and every time he'd be like, he would use something different, anything other than chief.
Have you ever heard that there's a Dane Cook bit where he's like talking about an escalation of force by saying stuff like two dudes saying stuff, and he's like, it goes like bro, and then dude, and then something else, and then the pinnacle is calling him chief, which is ironic because he just means like but like it's a hilarious bit. And it's similar. Like, he just keeps changing it up. It's funny.
He just keeps changing on him, and this dude finally eventually stops. He's like, sir, he's like, I am not gonna ask you again. You will refer to me as a ball. And he starts like, in mid yelling, they just untie the blindfold and pull it up, and it's a full bird sitting there with just a grin on his face. And I remember he was like,
I would pay money.
You will address me. And as soon as they pull it off, he just goes, I'm fucked, aren't I?
I would have paid money for somebody to have that on video, man. That's hilarious.
It was so great. And then so, like, the whole room starts dying laughing at his reaction at that point, right?
My
and then
God,
he just stops, dude. And the CO was like, oh no, keep going. And he's just
no,
like,
please don't. I would come on, bro, keep going, dude. Like, I would have just like trolling him.
Well, and so it was great, right? Because then once like the jig is up, the CO would stop and talk to him and be like, hey, this is because you're gonna get, like, I can't give what the Divo's seen, right? I can tell you what a junior sailor was, or what he's picturing, because I was a junior sailor. I can't tell you what a Divo is feeling going through those moments.
Right.
So, like, it's good to have a CO who was a Divo.
For sure.
Hey, here's where they're feeling. And, so that was really good aspect to it.
Yeah.
But it was funny because at the end he was like, yeah, no, I kept pushing your buttons. And he's like, if that happened, like, you were 100% right to just like snap and yell like,
oh yeah,
like, no, I still was not listening. He's like, you should immediately have gone to like my office and told me these things. And,
I mean, usually I would take him to EXO because he's kind of the cat herder of the JOs, but like, it's 100% a move that you have in your toolbox. But also, like, I think it's really cool when it seems like the importance of training JOs gets de-emphasized during the season a lot, in my experience anyway. And so it's like, I love when they make events like that he's never going to forget that moment. And so like, but it was a moment where he got mentorship from a full bird captain on how to deal with a JO. And so it's like anything like that where they're emphasized, because that shit, it's so important, because those become your COs. And I've had bad COs, and I've listened to chiefs bitch and moan about how terrible they are. I'm like, yeah, but why are they terrible? You know what I mean? Like, they're terrible because, and I mean, some of it's just they are who they are because of the experience they've had in life and their personality or whatever. But a lot of it is because of the chiefs that were charged with developing them along the way. And so it's, and you ever get a CO that got burned by some chiefs and doesn't quite trust them all the way, it's like, that's its own fucking adventure, man.
Well, so it was funny, like, and it's funny the way it comes across, because like, there's some good teaching moments that happen with it, but it's also just kind of funny to see, right?
Yeah, no, that's hilarious, dude.
And
God, that's good.
And so they did something similar out here. They went in and same thing, they had to go counsel but they kind of had a group of them because of the way it was done. And it was just like in Groton, you had I don't know if you ever went into where the racquetball courts are.
I barely remember Connecticut, man. I was there for Bess and then my first shore duty, but like I had to fucking remember.
So if you go in the building, there was 3 racquetball courts, but they're like closed off rooms, right? That you can't hear between or whatever. And so they had those 3 COs set up in watch bills between each. They were always in a room going.
Yeah.
And so you could rotate through, one dude at a time doing it. Out here, we just didn't have the space and or the amount of COs able to go do that because everybody still has a real job. And so they had a handful of COs that would sit at a table, but there was only one dude that was talking.
Group 9.
And then you would have like
department heads, dude. There's like so many post command tour commanders and captains up there doing not much.
Yeah. Right. Lots of deputies that were there. But so then you had a group of like 5 selects come in, same thing, blindfolded, and they're talking. They're only talking to one dude that they know is there. And so they would go through and do the same spiel. They didn't push as many buttons with the scenarios here, but it was the same idea, right? Counsel your divo. And then afterward, and they would rotate through who was talking. And then afterwards, they would take their blindfolds off and they would all just kind of be like, cool. And then, get some good feedback on what they said or shouldn't have said or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like our CO was there for that, which I'm used to seeing for that event. But then he just kind of followed our commands selects around for the rest of the night. That was like midday.
That's cool.
He just kept following us.
Yeah.
He followed us all around in every station. He would stand there. And so what's interesting is our CO and XO were both prior enlisted.
Okay. I mean, that kind of explains it. Like I would think they
was, I think he was like a GM. He got picked up pretty early. I think like on his first tour, he got picked up. Our XO, I don't know. I think he said he was watch soup. I mean, he was a nuke, so he was an engineer watch supervisor, but he was fairly senior. He wasn't like a nuke school pickup type deal. He'd like been around the block. He knew what was going on in life.
My last supply officer at Group was he was an electrician, a nuke electrician on a boat, and did like a whole tour. Like he was like a second class,
right?
And then got picked up and became a supply officer. So it was funny. I was like, how are you?
I feel like our XO was a first class when he got picked up. At least a second, if not a first. But anyway.
Yeah, I want to say like there were some years. There was a year on Louisiana where they were inviting everybody to like PT and shit. So like not like now that I'm thinking about it, but that was it though. Like they would invite the wardroom, the entire wardroom to PT, but they weren't inviting like department heads and below to like final night or like anything else really. Like it was just COXO.
The pitch between
at least for what I was there for.
The part that made the most sense to me when they were explaining it was like you constantly like there's always some stupid, vague, generic and unfounded threat that the chief season is going away because nobody believes, the CNO thinks it's
they need to see it. Blah, blah, right? Yeah, they need to see the value in it.
So it's like, right. So, or just on a smaller level, how do you convince your CO that you need your chief's quarters to be gone for the afternoon to go do something?
Right.
They're all going to be busy doing something. Like, if he doesn't understand what you're doing, then he's going to go, that sounds dumb. I need you to do something else besides go play.
Yeah, but the
games,
CO,
right?
like,
they're all just going to throw baloney at each other for an hour. Like,
the CO,
like,
I feel like
see the value in those things.
Yeah, well, but also like I feel like one, like he needs to see the value. Two, there's a senior officer seeing the value in it holistically, so that when one of them ends up being somebody important somewhere, they can either chime in or make the right decision when they're CNO, hopefully. But also, like, I think the third thing is like that I like if I'm a chief select and I see my CO while I'm like singing I'm a little teacup or whatever the fuck we're doing, like it's like that would mean something to me. Yeah, that would mean something to me if I saw my CO there. That would be like a morale boost. I feel like that he gives enough of a shit to like give of his time and be there, but then two, like when they're actively participating in it like that and adding value to my, like that's a big deal. I feel like even as a chief select, I understand how like the type of demands that are on his time or her time eventually. And like, and also like the amount of stress they're under and shit. And then they took time to come out here in the fucking cold, wet weather and hang out with me during final night. Like that'd be a big fucking deal to me. So I feel like that's really cool too.
So the big catch is a lot of people will invite COs, like you were saying, or maybe XOs to certain things like that. But what's dumb is that means you don't get any understanding of what's happening until you are the guy that's involved with what's happening.
And so which is a fair analysis.
So if you bring in like your department heads, right? Like you got guys that are screened to go be command, like they're going to leave there and go be an XO. Why wouldn't you want them also to be be
Yeah, and so I feel like
idea before they go in there,
before they're an XO or a CO. Yeah, I feel like department head is as low as I would want it to go, though, because I just feel like JOs, one, they're just probably not going to be super interested in being there at that point because most of that they're like an E3, like they don't even know if they're staying in the Navy yet. Where if you've committed to a department head tour, you're kind of. I mean, most of them are taking it all the way. So yeah, exactly. I think like department head is as low as I would go because like if it's like a mandatory event and those JOs don't give a shit, it's like that could become an issue. And it's like and so take away attention from what we should be doing. So I feel like department head is probably the lowest I would go, but I think there's a ton of value in that because like them seeing what it's all about, them seeing the value in it.
Mandatory.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying like a CO.
Like, we didn't have anything mandatory for them. I know what you mean.
There's a CO out there that could be like, I want everybody there because I said so. You know what I mean? And it's just like, that ain't gonna.
We made a point to tell them like, hey, you guys are invited.
Yeah.
And
but you're kind of part of the furniture.
And the Cobb kind of gave them like a loose, brochure of the sales pitch of this is why it's important and why it would be great for you to show up. And so we had a couple of the department heads and the XO. They came by on their lunch break between trainers. And so they just came by for a hot minute. One dude brought a bag full of candy for all the selects and was just like, hey, I can't.
Little morale boost. Like, here's your blow pop.
Exactly. Like, congrats, keep up the energy. Cool. You guys are amazing, whatever. And it was, I mean, it's small, but still they made a point to show up. That's awesome.
Somebody brought me a red Starburst in the middle of that shit. I'd be happy to see him. I feel like you're cool.
And especially when it's like the Eng, right? And you're like, okay, like who are you? But like, thanks for being here. So that part was cool. But when the CO followed us around the rest of the day, or specifically our selects, but as he watched each station that they went to, and he would, they would, somebody would tell the selects, hey, this is what you have to do. And then he would kind of stand there and watch. And then, but he kept looking over at the rest of our chiefs that were with them. And it was like, so what is what are we trying to get out of this? What's the point?
Yeah. What's the training
tons
objective?
Of questions and
good.
And it wasn't in a way of like trying to validate if it was worthwhile. It was just like,
just
hey, help
genuinely
me
curious
driving here,
Yeah.
And so that part was awesome. It was great for all that. But what I thought was the most interesting that I had never seen before, and nobody else in our mess had heard of or seen before, was when we went for the final acceptance piece and we're in our tent. He was sitting in there with us.
That's cool. I'm fine with that.
He sat there the whole time. And so, and he was very much like, the Cobb kind of laid out the ground rules for everybody. Like, hey, this is how we do it here. This is what's going to happen. This is what I expect. This is what I want. Yada, yada, yada. Right. And he kind of lays that out. And then he kind of looked over and he said like, do you have anything? It wasn't like anything to add, but like, do you have any questions or whatever? And the CO just kind of looked around like, I'm the guest here. Like
I'm part of the furniture. Yeah.
And he's like, I'm just going to sit quietly. And there was one guy that showed up who was retired. But a handful of dudes in our mess knew him and whatever. And he sat in the corner. Again, he didn't say anything either. He was there for a couple of specific dudes that he was in their career. And he was there for them. But he kind of laughed and he nodded towards that guy. And he's like, that dude has an idea of what's going on. He's like, that dude gets a vote before me.
Yeah.
And we kind of laughed about that, but
I don't like, I would be
like, I just want to see.
Yeah. I would be fine. Like if I'm the old retired dude in the tent, like I'd be fine speaking up as long as the cob was cool with it. Like but if not, you know what I mean? Like, cause it depends on like, if you invite me to one of yours, like say, it'd be like, I'm probably not going to know many of the dudes there. And I definitely don't know the cob. So it's like, I'm totally in guest mode unless he's like, yeah, maybe I'm there for somebody specific or maybe not. But like, if not, yeah, I'm largely part of the furniture unless somebody defers to me or tags me in or something, or unless the cob gives me explicit permission. Because I feel like, yeah, I'm kind of like just there.
And he literally, he had to go meet with, he sat down, or not sat down with, but like he went and talked to the cob beforehand. And the cob was like, hey, I just want to talk to the dude, see what he thinks his role is, and make sure that he's not overstepping bounds, or that we're not expecting something of him that he's unfamiliar with. Right.
Yeah.
Which is totally fine and fair.
Yeah.
But and he was fine. He was quiet for the whole. None of them really said much. The standard, like, there's a handful of people that do most of the talking, but but the CO is there the whole time, and so like after each dude gets through, like of course there's the chain of everybody standing up, giving the dude a hug and all that stuff. But with the way they had like these floodlights set up in there, they couldn't see most any of us in the tent.
Yeah, and
or at least not detailed, right? And so I don't think any of them knew that the CO was in there beforehand.
Okay.
Until once everybody went through, then the CO was the last dude to walk up, and just because he didn't want to cut in line, I guess, was kind of the way it came across. It wasn't like I'm the final boss. It was like,
it was, he wanted to let the chiefs do chief things first. And then
and so then he just slid up and gave him a hug, or I think he just shook their hand, I don't know, something like that. But every time, once he stood out in the right spot and they saw who he was, they were all just like, oh shit,
holy shit, that's cool. But man, says a lot about your CO.
We asked the CO, like, we were like, hey, what did you think of that?
So what did you think?
That was my, And he was like, I mean, I don't know, I've never seen any of this before. So it's like very eye opening, and it's a lot of like,
it's a lot to process probably.
Yeah. But he was like, I mean, I think it's fucking awesome. But like, he's like, I really love it. Like, I think it was fucking awesome, but like, I don't have anything to compare to, Like, I have no idea what to expect. Because I kind of joked with him and I said, is it everything that you hoped and dreamed? Like, is it what you expected it to be?
Yeah.
And he's like, I literally had no expectations. I didn't know what to think.
No idea what's about to happen.
Right. But he was like, but it was awesome. And I was like, well, that's good at least. And he was like, he was like, was there something, I don't remember how he said it, but he was kind of like, is that what, like, did I do anything wrong? And I was like, I've never even heard of a CO being in
not being there at acceptance. I've never seen that. That's cool though.
And he was like, and he kind of looked surprised. He's like, really? And then our EDMC was like, oh yeah, no, I've never heard of that either. I've never seen that. You're a first. And he was like surprised. I think he felt honored by that.
Yeah, I've seen COs like being involved, like we talked about earlier, but I've never seen one at acceptance. There was one year where he was like, they were kind of like milling about, but they weren't like in the tent, like watching or whatever. But how do you feel about the floodlight thing? That's the second time I've heard that. And I've never experienced it where you've got like the lights pointed at the select so they can't really see the chiefs. I've never been like involved in one like that.
It wasn't intentional so that they couldn't.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you've got a dude's plugged in his truck. He's got an extension,
a light bar or whatever the fuck.
Strips, and you got a handful of lights around the tent, right? Like, we had 5 pop-up tents in this area with tarps around them, and it's dark. You can't see shit.
Yeah.
And so really, it's like so that the dudes in the tent can see the guy standing there that you're talking to.
Yeah, okay. That's because it wasn't
like a legit floodlight. It was just pointed at them.
Yeah, I think Ariana, I think it was hers. I think it might have been Desiree. I don't know. We talked about it on the episode, but like they said that for theirs, when they went in, they had like floodlights pointed at them and nobody could see the chiefs. And so it was weird. And I'm like, I don't fucking like that, dude. If I'm talking to you, I want you to be able to see my face. Like, I feel like there's a lot lost in the communication part.
Yes and no. So like when I did mine, there was basically a floodlight on me, and I or before that I had blackout goggles on, so I couldn't see who, you recognize voices obviously, but I couldn't see their faces for most of it. Yeah. But the advantage of that too is I didn't get like distracted looking at, there was nothing to get distracted by. Like, I couldn't see anybody specifically. There was I didn't have that dude in the back that's giggling, talking to the dude next to him, or, I'm asking somebody to throw me the bag of jerky. Right. And that's like a distracting thing while you're trying to talk about something. Like, you didn't have that happening. I guess when you can't see what else, again, in ours, it wasn't so bad that you couldn't see anything. It was just, I mean, it was bright, but
they just couldn't see the CO because of where he was, kind of thing. Yeah. Well, yeah. Fair.
He was like, he was just directly where he was underneath one of the spotlights.
Yeah.
Like just behind it and sitting in the first seat closest to them. So like he was right behind the floodlight. You just couldn't see that shit.
Gotcha.
But again, none of it was like meant to be a smoke and mirrors, like I'm the man behind the curtain kind of thing. It was just a physical, when you got a hodgepodge together a tent and lighting and like you work with what you got. But I do think there is some value to, again, not being distracted by whatever that's happening. Because that's true. Like you would see dudes that would walk in. We laughed like the first couple of guys that walked in. The first guy was like, "Hey, what's going on, guys?" And somebody's just like, "Get the fuck out."
Are you stupid?
And then
like we're in the middle of something.
Come in and then the second dude comes in.
Oh, you're talking about the select did that.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you meant it like you're in the middle of like a selectee interaction and some dork just walked in and said, "Hey, what's up, guys?"
No, like the first select walked in and was just like, "Hey, what's going on, guys?" And we were just like, "Get the fuck
out."
And then the next dude comes in and he's like, Chief Select so-and-so reporting for whatever. And we're just like, get the fuck out.
You can get out too.
And then the third dude came in somewhere in the middle and we kind of laughed. We're like, did you guys just try like both extremes to see which would work?
Just to kind of like start feeling everything out.
And the third dude just kind of laughed and he's like, "Oh yeah, no, that's 100%.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Well, that didn't work. Get the fuck out.
Idiots.
So like all those things are super funny and like the CO is kind of laughing at all that stuff too. But it was interesting at seeing how that happened. But again, it was hard because I didn't want to overstep my bounds of not knowing how. Again, it's not that I've never seen.
Yeah, you're new to the command
and whatever.
Yeah.
But new to the command and new here, and I don't know.
You don't even know the selects that well, so it's like, what are you gonna say? You know what I mean? Like,
right. And there's a couple of things that you kind of dig on here or there, but like, but for the most part, I just kind of sat there, and it was just funny because like one of the Cobb, I don't even know how many times it was like a meme after a while of like, "Hey, we do cigars for final night." Like then one guy brought like, I think he brought like 40 something cigars. And so while we're sitting in there, like everybody's got a cigar lit. God, and so like one of the first dudes that walked in, he just steps in and he goes, "It is really smoky in here." Looking around. We just,
I wouldn't have been in that tent, man. They did, when Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather fought, we were, on patrol and somebody on the other crew like put it on a DVD or something and sent it out to the boat, and our CO lights the smoking lamp on the submarine on cruise mess like while we're submerged, and I was fucking furious, dude, because it's so fucking unsanitary, but also it's like contrary to a policy document, and that shit makes me nauseous, bro. Like it's so gross. So I'm like, I was so fucking pissed and no one cared. And they're like, "This is happening." And I'm like, all right, fuck off. I'm like, I'm going to the rack. I'm not going to be involved in this. Don't come to me for shit. And I just went to sleep because it gives me like a headache. I get nauseous. I'm like, I hate it. Yeah. And they were out there, pizza and wings and all that. And it's like, it's cool. Like I got no problem with everything except the cigars. Like, no, not on the mess decks, man. Like if they want to go down and smoke in the machinery or whatever.
I quit smoking years ago, and so since then I can't do cigarette smoke. Like I won't just hang out in the smoke pit, but I don't mind like I guess I don't mind it, but like if it was like I'm not gonna go
like
smoke pit.
a million dudes in a tent, nah, fuck off. I can't do it.
But with like everybody with cigars, for some reason cigars are different to me, and it doesn't really bother me as much. I think it's because I grew up with my dad smoked cigars for growing up, so it didn't bother me, but it was definitely one of those, like, you don't notice how smoky it is till you stepped out of the tent for something, and then you come back in and you're like, oh yeah, it's smoky.
Yeah.
I mean, you got 18 people smoking a cigar and 5 pop-up tents that are tented in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was interesting having the CO there, and then especially with the mindset of like, and I think the XO would have been there, but he was sick. Because he made a point of saying that at one point. He called me for something work related on final night, and I was like, why are you in the office? Why are you not down here? Just giving him a hard time. And he was like, I'm sick. He's like, you don't need this. Like,
you don't need this bad juju in your life.
Which sure, cool, but I don't know. I thought it was really interesting because again, it makes sense even on a small level when you're talking to the CEO and you go, hey, we're gonna go do this thing for Chief season, like the next 2 seasons that our CEO is gonna be here, like that dude's bought in. You know what I mean? He gets it to some extent. He's not gonna fight you on like, oh, you're gonna have Chief training, okay?
Right. You're gonna go play reindeer games.
He gets it.
Yeah.
Right. If nothing else, he saw the end result. And so he knows the value. He's seen all of that, and he knows what's going on. And so again, when you say like, hey, it's final night, there's 2.5 days that we're not going to be available because you have a half day, then you have the full day of final night, and then you have pinning, and then we're not coming back to work after pinning on a Friday. So like when you kind of have a khaki exodus for 2.5 days, shy of really critical things, like it's not a hard sell to this guy anymore. He's like, for sure, I get it, and I'm bought in. And so it makes sense to me to have them involved at that point. Plus, like you could always sell it as like, we're just trying to show that we're above board and blah 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 blah.
But that's a valid point to the people that are worried about like what you said earlier about it like going extinct, because the officers that get all the way up to the tippy top and have to deal with like shutting it down because somebody did something stupid. I mean, you're going to have like, the more you do that, the less CNOs you're going to have in that spot that think there's no value to it and think it's stupid and I don't need this shit. And they just shut it down like forever. And they're just like, you can do CPO LDC and shut up. And everybody just gets frocked like a normal person. And so it's like, and that's like, I mean, we're at a high risk of that pretty much at all times. I mean, it's almost happened like half a dozen times. Like if you go into the tradition of change document, like a bunch of MCPONs talk about how the CNO is like, fix this or we're done. You know what I mean? And it's like multiple MCPONs have that same like experience. So yeah, it's like fucking,
I don't know. It's not that I don't buy that. Like it just seems, I don't know, the last handful of somewhat important people that I've talked to, that are like, we had a couple of fleets and whatever else that are forces, I don't know. I'm
not saying like
some of that, but like
those guys would say the same thing, but like high, if you had the opportunity to ask like a flag officer at that level, like they don't have the same like attachment to it. You know what I mean? So like, they don't give a fuck if there's a chief season largely. Unless they really believe that it would like harm the Chiefs Mess's ability to do what they do, I guess. I don't see why they would care.
Right. You know but I guess part of going through the season and or seeing all of that at least. Is, from the CEO's point, is you're there to show him like, look, you could go whole pitcher Kool-Aid and say that I don't think the Chiefs could do what they do without the season.
Right.
And I'm sure somebody could make a good case for that, you know, and I don't really know, but
I think there's value,
somebody
but
that could make a good,
you know how I feel about it.
I know. I'm not saying that it's perfect the way it is.
Yeah, right. But I think there's value. Yeah.
I definitely think that we are more capable, I guess, with the season than we would be without
it. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Like, which again, like for all its flaws and for all my criticisms of it, I've always maintained that like, but there is goodness there. And it's sometimes it's hard for me to even quantify what that thing is, but I'm telling you, like it exists. It's there. It's hard. And it's a hard sell because it sounds like I'm just like fucking unicorns and rainbow. I'm just like shitting rainbows, but like, it's hard for even me to articulate it sometimes, but there really is.
Well, that's the funniest part when you talk to somebody who's going through the season, who's having a hard time, and they're like, hey, this sucks and this is miserable. Why am I doing this? And you're like, and it'll be better later. Like,
but that's the thing though. Like I don't even think that's how you answer the question. I think one of my biggest criticisms is that we don't have the formal policy documents and structure built around it. And then there aren't like formal training objectives for us to point to. There's just these vague platitudes about like, you'll understand later, pointed barbs and shit. And it's like, that's bullshit. But there is like this, when you're looking at it, like big picture, when you zoom out, it's like, why does it work? And it doesn't always, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but like why does it seem to add value somehow? And it's like shared adversity. I don't fucking know. Like, I mean, like I'd have to really like dissect that. And I know that like the shared adversity and shared suffering, there's something to that. Otherwise, like SEAL training wouldn't work the way that it does, like BUDS, and like all the boot camp wouldn't work. Yeah, there's something to trauma bonding. That should be a bumper sticker or some shit.
Terrible. But
yeah, but there really is something there that, and I really think it's overcoming adversity as a team that's a thing that like that adds some value and that makes you better for some reason, because it like just galvanizes the team. But like, there's something more there that I haven't really been able to like fully codify yet, but yeah, there is value. And like I believe that, like truly. I just have a lot of other issues with it and how we do it. Because I think there is so much. I think the thing that I get spun up about is I see that like, so there's what we do now, and I can recognize that there's an enormous potential value that we're not like leveraging. You know what I mean? Like, I think it could be so much more valuable if we were doing it better, but like even when we fuck it up, it's still somehow most of the time adds some value. And that's what's really interesting is like even Desiree and Ariana, who were real skeptical going in. And I mean, Ariana was actively like resisting it for a while, and I had to like talk her down a few times. Even she came out the other end and is like, I get it now. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely got value from that. I'm definitely better for it. Like, still has issues, still has her bones to pick, just like I do, and you do, and but they are like, okay, like, well, like I did get something out of that. So yeah, I mean, it's there is value there. I just, we could do way, way, way better. I think that's what's frustrating.
You could always, there's always a better way, but the problem is that the Navy changes constantly. And so how do you teach all that without, you'd have to teach them, you'd have to push them through the season while simultaneously how to do the next season. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I just think it's as simple as like, if we can, like, they built NLEC ELD and like, I mean, I don't know when they started like working on it, like brainstorming and shit, but like 5 years, maybe, if that, like, so it's like, dude, all I want is that type of formal structure built around it. I just want a policy document I can point at, and I want training objectives, and I want a master course document that says certain things. And it's like, you're just building a sandbox with guardrails. Like, I just want the bright red lines, and I want it focused, and I want a certain amount of it to be like repeatable. Like I want a consistent product across all the communities and all the whatevers, with that like wiggle room built in for each warfare community and platform and whatever to build in their own like functionality, heritage, specific things, right? Like, because it's, you know, a SEAL chief's not the same as a submarine chief's not the same as a CB chief, and etc. But they kind of are, though, you know what I mean? And I feel like that needs to be built in too. But like, other than that, like, I don't want to abolish it. I think a lot of the structure is good. I think a lot of like, that's not the right way of saying that. I think a lot of the, like, it's got like a like decent bones, but it needs to be stripped down to the studs and rebuilt and refocused in a much more like, just, it's almost like a modernization or like a refit or something, because it's just like, I need it. I like, there's so much we do that's just like you were saying, like it off the cuff and like informal, and it can get chaotic, and there's not always a plan, and not everybody's on the same page and all this shit. And it's like, that's because a lot of it is very, and I mean, it kind of depends on who's running the season too, like how much planning they do, how much they formalize with any type of orders or documents or whatever. But it's usually chaotic, and there's poor communication, and people don't know what the fuck's going on. And then there's not a lot of focus to the training and to some of the events. And it's like, yeah, I mean, fuck, why is it not formalized like everything else is? And that's what drives me ape shit.
We like here. One of the big things that I liked is we gave, so the first 2 training sessions. Now, granted, we have, when you have 7 selects, we have 16, 15 chiefs before that, maybe 16, something like that. I don't know. Yeah. And our cob can be kind of long winded. Just in general, it's like, he knows about it. It's a thing.
It's his, what's the word I'm looking for? Prerogative. Yeah. He's the guy.
Yeah. But so when the big point was like, we went into training, every training that we did with them, he made a point to talk to us beforehand, to the room, like whoever was there, and say like, hey, I want this to be, you know, like, they've been getting just beat down by things lately. They need a win. You know, you can just read it on their face. They need a win. Right. So like, just, you know, make your comments, sure, but like overall, I want this to be a positive day and experience for them. So give them the win, right? Or it was like, these dudes have just sucked at 98 different things and haven't done anything. Yeah. So it's, I don't care if they get through 3 sentences. Yeah. You know, and it's like that, whatever. Right. Right. And so, but he made a point to explain those. When we did training, the first 2 trainings, I think, were given by the Chiefs first. We talked through like some Mando topics that we wanted to go through to show, and
gave them
like,
the roadmap. Yeah.
Right. This is what a good training looks like. And so we did those trainings. And then after that, we would have them.
Did you tell them you don't have your MTS? So you don't know what the fuck you're talking about?
Right. No, I didn't. But they didn't come. Our problem was with the time of everything. We also had some crazy operational stuff that
I mean, that's always
now, but we had a million other wild things that came up that kind of threw a big gear in the wrenches for a little while. And so some of the trainings kind of went to the side. And when they did come in, it was less of, hey, I want you to give us your training about DAPA to the Chiefs mess. Like, okay, I don't care about that. What I want is like, where are you at with these 15 different things you need to get done, and what's your plan, and why is this done, and yada yada yada. And so there was more of that, and we just, by the time we were done with rattling through that, we didn't have time to
do the topic or whatever. Right.
You know, where it's like,
which, like, do you really give a shit? Like, because most of you guys already know all that stuff anyway, so it's not like they're really training you. It's like, it's more for their benefit. The point.
A lot of those things, you know, I've always looked at those as there's 0 point in them. They're not. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Maybe there's a couple. I don't need you to don't know a couple of oolies, but that's never the point, because again, as a chief, I would assume everybody on the other side of the room knows at least enough to go, oh shit, a DAPA thing. I know who to go talk to, and I'm going to go ask.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll figure it out. But where for them, it's more of, I look at all of those as it's a opportunity to give training to a group of people. They may not have done that before. And then also, like, how do you deal with that obnoxious second class that doesn't care and thinks everything you say is a joke? And how do you care about this first class that's constantly going to one up you with Uli questions or whatever, right? Like, there's those scenarios. Like, how good are you going to be when you walk in and the CO is like, hey, where are these 5 deliverables? How do you answer those questions without looking like an idiot? And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, those are the things that I think you get out of it. It has nothing to do with what you're actually training.
Right.
But the side benefit is when you tell them to give training about, say, the DAPA, they theoretically are doing some research about the DAPA program.
Yeah, they have to open the book.
And they learn something about it.
Right.
And so some of that is some of the side benefits. Them standing there talking to me about equal opportunity is less effective. That's not the goal. I'm not literally trying to train about whatever they're telling me about.
But that's kind of one of the things that I look at as an opportunity for like if I don't care and so the room's not there to receive training, and then the people doing it are really only gaining the experience of doing the training and then looking in the books. It's like, I feel like I could build some stuff in like assignments that they spend time doing that involve that kind of stuff. And maybe you wrap it up in egg divisions. Cause I used to do a lot of that. Like, oh, hey, Sailor Timmy gave you an EO complaint. But then it frees any of those training sessions up for them to receive training from the chiefs on things that actually, like, competencies, like things that actually fucking matter. That's 100%
what ours became.
Right. Good. Because I feel like that's what it should be for everyone, you know?
They asked everybody to write down, like, I think the top 3, like, wildest scenarios that they had as a chief. And
God, so you probably had some fucking doozies.
So they basically
I know NCS agents by their first name.
I did. I forgot that.
We're homies. Yeah, that's hilarious.
It was but so, like, people just kind of gave, like, hey, this sailor, I had a sailor who got another sailor pregnant and whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then the female sailor didn't want to keep the pregnancy, but and then also he was married, and how do you deal with that?
Right.
And or whatever, right? They would just be some wild stuff.
And there's,
because seen some wild shit out there.
Yeah, there's so much fucking shit to learn from scenarios like that, dude, because it's not even just one competency. You get to talk through a ton of shit, and those were universally the most, like, powerful and impactful moments were like like that same EDMC I talked about earlier. Like, there was a training where he talked about a sailor. I think they took their own life. I'm not sure. There's something, one of his sailors died. I don't remember all of the scenario itself, but I remember how the room felt. I remember what their faces look. Yeah, I mean, like, I remember the energy.
Yeah.
And it was like that. Those moments are like the most impactful moments when, like, because, like, a lot of the time it's not just sharing a story. It's like that chief becomes humanized because they're vulnerable, sharing this, like, fucking traumatic shit they went through as a chief, and what they learned from it and how they dealt with it and what they would have done differently and all those things. It's like, that's the shit right there. That's the good stuff, man. Like, those are by far and away the most impactful moments for me anyway.
So when they did their egg division and they passed them out, whatever we're looking at, you get the standard like chuckles about each one of them. And then, did you make a Divo notebook, and did you do this? And did you actually give them names and whatever? You go through some of the random.
Yeah, which is fun. Like, I always enjoyed that part, even though, like, I get it. Like, you can easily point at the egg division thing and be like, what are we doing? But it's like, it's fun. But also, if you do it correctly, there's a lot of functionality built into that. And, like, have you ever made a Divo notebook? Because it's a thing you should do. And that's where, like, your fucking paperwork should go, and then, like, an EO thing, or a, like, homie, like, somebody died, what's the Keiko procedures and all those things. It forces the function of them getting in the book, writing a form, like, write a counseling sheet, write a report shit, blah, 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 blah,
And that's how we used it, which was, ended up being like a big training time distractor of like, hey, you guys were supposed to give us training on whatever. But here's what it ended up being was we gave you, when you showed us your egg division last week, we told you these 5 things happened.
Yeah.
So what's the answer? What did you do? And then when they like kind of, one of them was like, you could kind of see him kind of roll his eyes at some wild scenario.
Yeah.
One of them was like, your sailor she was on leave. She was out kayaking somewhere. And then you just got a phone call from the sheriff's department that said that she had died somehow kayaking. Her body washed up on shore, and they were on their way to her husband's house to go notify him. And like, that's where you're at and what what do you do? And so when you would give some of the more wild scenarios and you see them kind of like roll their eyes at it. It's
like it never happens.
Don't fucking roll your eyes, dude.
Yeah, don't fuck. Yeah, like it happened to somebody on a carrier fucking few years ago. There was a nuke electrician hiking by himself. I don't even know if they know what happened, but he fell down somewhere and died. And like, then all those things happened on board USS whatever. I was one of the carriers. But like, yeah, I mean, that's a real thing, dude. Like, people die in motorcycle accidents all the time. Every year, somebody gets killed riding their motorcycle because somebody wasn't paying attention or they were doing silly things on their motorcycle or whatever. But like, I had a JO on my last submarine. I don't know if he was hiking or doing something on the water, but like got caught in some current and drowned in the river and died. So it's like, yeah, it fucking happens. I know the dude. Like,
right. And so that was like, you get a couple of guys who would get kind of heated about that, of the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, dude, this isn't, I get it.
This isn't
a fucking wooden egg, but this is a real thing.
It's a real thing that will happen to you. Like, one of these things is going to happen to you, if not a bunch,
Right. And the cool part about it was all the scenarios that we gave were things
like a real story
in our mess had lived.
Yeah.
Not just like I heard about a guy.
That's cool, because then when they do that eye roll bullshit, homeboy can come from the top rope and just like teach them a life lesson really quick.
Yeah, no, they stopped rolling their eyes quick about that. But it was still very much like, okay, well, so what would you do in that scenario? And it's like, well, I would go do whatever. And it's like, dude, I just told you that the cops said that they're on their way to go notify.
Yeah. What's the first thing you're going to do? I'm going to call the chain of command on my way 100 miles an hour to her husband's house. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm going to be on speaker going, hey, cops, some shit's going down. I'm on the way to the husband's house. I'll give you an update when I have more information. Click. That's the end of my actions until I get there to like help her husband stop hyperventilating and like do whatever I can to help the family.
And so it was just things like that. Like, sure, there's a black and white answer in there somewhere. But like, no shit, this happened. What are you going to do?
Right. And what are you really going to do?
And you go through all that. And so like, those were good, but that's what most of our trainings ended up being. Yeah. It wasn't literally them standing there clicking through a PowerPoint. Literally ever, actually. That never happened. But
I don't think it happened with me either. Like,
this one was weird because there was a lot of small things that I think are kind of corny, but that I always kind of enjoyed. And maybe I'm wrong with this, or
like what?
I mean, I'm not wrong for what I enjoy. So.
Well, yeah. But, I don't know. You might be. Some people are weird.
But so I laughed like 2 days before final night. I was talking to one of the dudes, and I was like, I said something. I was like, "Hey, man, how long have you been in the Navy?" And he was like,
all me blooming life.
But idiot. Like, I joined in 2009. And I was like, what? And I was like, no. And he's like, that other thing. He goes, I didn't memorize it.
Yeah.
Like, has nobody asked you?
I felt stupid.
Memorized, but like,
I felt stupid during my season, but then when I was the chief on the other side, I don't care about like getting permission to sign like the charge book spiel. Like, I think those are stupid, and I don't even want people to do that with me. But yeah, like how long have you been in the Navy? And what's the other one?
Is it? How high?
What time is it? Yeah. What time is it? Is my other favorite one.
But those are like, they're dumb and they're corny and like, sure.
But it's the secret decoder ring shit. It's funny and it's cool and all Chiefs know it. So it's like, that's like part of the secret decoder ring. It's like part of the things that's like makes it kind of cool.
But also like it's meant to, like, that's part of the piece that's not everything has to be like your sailor just died and the cops are.
You're allowed to have fun.
You're allowed to laugh and have fun, you know? Like, so just laugh and have fun with it. Like, who cares?
Right.
Like, and if you got a word backwards, it's not like I'm going to come off the top ropes and tell you the worst select ever.
Right.
Like, we're all going to laugh at it, and then you're going to move on with life.
I think sometimes those things get demonized a little bit because somebody does do that. Like somebody refuses to give them a charge book entry because they got one word wrong in the fucking thing. And they're like, nope, come back when you know it, idiot. You know, like, and they just get treated like shit. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that happens with some fucking dummies out there, but I think those things are fine. I'm not a fan of the most honorable and exalted bullshit, and I'm not a fan of the presenting your charge book with all the shticks that they have all over. But like, and there's some other stuff that used to happen that I feel like's pretty much extinct. But yeah, I don't have a problem with like that shit. I mean, I probably said the Sailor's Creed 1,000 times, sang Anchors Away 1,000 times. Like, you know, like
watching them march in, singing Anchors Away, and then trying to request permission the proper way to enter or whatever, and they'd screw it up, and then we'd send them out and they'd come back, and it's like, okay, sure, that's dumb, but every time they got those wrong, we went like, I think of the first time the Cobb was like, you have 3 chances, and then after the 3rd time he was like, all right, he goes, you guys are singing row 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 your boat in a round while you like fake paddle your boat. And so, but then it just turned into this really funny thing because he was like, you're going to sing it in a round. And they were like, what does that mean? And so he's trying to explain it and walk them through how to do that. And like, but then the Cobb was telling him how to do it the wrong way. And then like somebody else stepped in and was like, no, this is how you do it. And then he was trying to tell him. And then the dudes, when the selects were trying to sing it, they were singing it like, half of them were doing it the right way. Half of them were doing it the wrong way. It sounded like this hot garbage nonsense.
Yeah.
And then like our side of the room is all just like kind of arguing with each other about who knows how to sing this song in a round. And then eventually we all just started laughing at like how absurd.
Yeah, how silly everything was. Yeah. Yeah. I always liked,
and like we all laughed about it and moved on, but
I always liked that PT when you're doing the counting, and I don't know, I think they do it everywhere. But where they do the, you count your repetitions, and if you don't say chief, senior chief, master chief, MCPON, you feel, because like everybody fucks it up a few times at the beginning at least, where some dummy says 7 and you're like, what the fuck? And then you start over or whatever. And it's like, I always thought that was fun because like I would do shit like that with my A school students when I was a senior chief. We'd be doing PT in the morning, and I'd do air squats. And at the time I was like prime CrossFit shape. So like, I would do air squats, but I would do them ridiculously fast. And I was like, you know, I'll count the cadence, you count the repetition. If you don't keep up with me, or if you like, I would do some where I'd be like up, down, and I'd like stay down, and they would just go up, and I'd be like, we're starting over, you know, and like, we're going to get to 10, but I would trip them up on purpose. And it was like a game. And to like be part of PT, and they loved it. Like they were just like, he got us again. You know what I mean? Or like, they would not screw up. And then I'd be like, all right. And then we'd go up again. And like, they loved it. And so like, I always had a fun with stuff like that because I don't know, like it just makes it fun. It's like kind of like just like a bonding thing. Exactly. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think it's, you know, like you have to have fun doing something like the Chiefs season. Like if you don't have any fun, it's going to suck the whole fucking time. Like you're going to be traumatized at the end. Like you got to build some fun and like laugh in lieu of crying in some of the things. And so like, you got to learn that. And I wasn't good at it as a select. Like I didn't deal with that well. Like I didn't, this dude, Timmy, was one of the guys that made chief with me, and he was always trying to like stir shit up and play pranks and fucking, you want to go into the Chiefs quarters with an air horn in the middle of the night and wake them all up and sing Anchors Away and shit. And just he always wanted to do some kind of a prank. And I was always like, we were always talking him out of shit because we didn't want to get yelled at. And it's like, well, joke's on you, nerd. You're going to get yelled at anyway. So let's go have some fun. And then like, but I didn't get it then. I get it now, you know, like I got it after I was a chief, but we didn't, we should have listened to Timmy more. Like, we should have done more of the hijinks, had some more fun. But
yeah. I don't know. It's like those aspects are the ones that are like, I can't 100% justify why they absolutely need to be part of the season outside of saying they're not harmful when done properly. So
I mean,
like,
the value that is added is the fun. Like, yeah, it's just fun. And it's like a bonding thing too. I think it's kind of like the opposite, or like not the opposite, like a positive version of the trauma bonding. You know what I mean? Like, it's like it humanizes us. It shows that we can have fun and that we do have fun in the mess as a group, as a team, whatever. And so, like, I think there's there really is objective value to it. It's just, you got to stay way on the safe side of the hazing line, because you get up with some of that shit, you kind of start to toe the line a little bit. I don't know,
it was, I don't know. It was, like I said, it was interesting because I kind of just went the whole season. I just kind of, I was just along for the ride for the most part, at least with as far as input on the big things. And again, it's just because I'm just learning the area, the mess, the job, all the things, the
people. Yeah. I mean, geez. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've been here 4 months now. So, so I get that aspect. And it's not that like I'm suddenly going to become the most vocal dude in the room next year, but I will have a informed opinion when it comes to planning things or what should or shouldn't happen. And so I was just kind of, in observe mode for all of it for the most part. And it was interesting. Like, I don't think it was a bad season at all. I think these guys did it right. Or
sounds
I don't think that they did it wrong. I can't say that like it's 100% what I would have done, but ultimately,
it sounded good though. Like, it sounded
to get to the exact same end point.
Yeah, it sounded above average. Like, and I mean, I wasn't there, but like the way you describe it, it sounds like you're in a mess that's doing a good job. You know what I mean? Like, could it be better? Of course it could. Fucking everything could be better, but like, it sounds like it was good for sure. So that's dope.
And there's always small things here and there that like somebody's gonna like, because they're like, well, in Hawaii we did this.
Yeah,
I think
this used to fish.
Exactly. And so like that's why I say like I can't say that they did it 100% right, because I don't think there is one, but they didn't do it wrong. So that's I was happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's like I almost feel like that's the objective, is like, don't do it wrong. You know what I mean? Like, we want to do it right, but just don't do it wrong. And that's winning by a lot of metrics. Like, obviously we want to strive for doing a great job, or whatever.
And I don't think anybody, from what I've talked to, none of the selects had like some weird bitter feeling. Nobody felt like they were like, my biggest beef was one of the early trainings while they were trying to talk about figuring out how to leave the room or some shit. I don't remember what, but they were like just standing around lost towards the beginning. And so while they were lost, we just started firing lookups at them. And one dude was just standing in the corner, just scribbling every one of them down.
Yeah.
And so I laughed because I'm a big baseball fan. And so I said, hey, I want to know what Chiefs were in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And then I kind of waited. And then I think at one of the trainings, or
isn't there two? I feel like you're the one that told me this.
Oh, there's more than two, but
okay. I don't
there's
remember.
two main
you
ones
told me once,
but
I don't remember. Yeah.
Well, like one of them is Bob Feller, right? Who was
that one I knew. Yeah.
Well, there's also an award named after him.
I was gonna say there's. I know that name award for a different reason. Yeah, Bob Feller Award.
Yeah, it's an award for a chief that they give once a year to one chief in the Navy, and then it also goes to a professional player at the same time. Whole foundation, yada yada yada.
That's cool.
But then like the other argument is like, so his big thing is he was like a gun captain. I don't know what his official rate was, because it's hard to find.
Yeah.
But like more or less like he was a gunner's mate on the Alabama, like actually saw combat type deal.
Yeah.
In World War II, where Pee Wee Reese was another one who was a Dodger. But he joined, and that was back when they were letting people come in and basically join the Navy as a chief.
Yeah.
And he was like a specialist, I think was what they called a lot of these oddball rates that were basically PR rates. And all he did was go play baseball. Like, I think he played in like Hawaii for a couple of years. And then like he helped teach a team in Norfolk or something. And then he got back out of the Navy. So like, yeah, he was in the Navy, but like he still did go join and volunteer, but ultimately he played baseball his whole time in the Navy. So it's like, okay, so what's the difference between Bob Feller and Pee Wee Reese? And again, it's like a wiki search will tell you all that you need to know between the two. But so I asked him that, and none of them ever came back to me with the answer to any of that.
And it's, again, Bob Feller was made an honorary Green Beret for life. I don't know why. I was trying to find his rate really quick, but it didn't. I couldn't find it.
Good luck.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked. I looked for 30 seconds.
Oh, well. But either way, he, like I asked about that. And again, it's just, it sparked the conversation of like, did you look up any of this? This is an award that you could submit another chief for potentially if you wanted to someday. And, or, I just like fucking baseball. And so it kind of forces somebody to look something up and come talk to me about baseball.
You were salty as fuck the other day.
So mad. But you know, it was just, so they didn't ask me about, or they never got back to me with any of that. And then on final night, as we were running around to different stations, every time we stopped for something, somebody would bring up a lookup. And so I just kept asking them about anything with Bob Feller, Pee Wee Reese, something with baseball. There's a couple of others that I asked him about, like submarine history on things. And if not, it was like, eventually you just stop asking because like, I only want to do so many like squats or push-ups or leg lifts or whatever with them.
Right.
And so eventually it's like, dude, I'm tired. Like, I know that you guys think you're tired, but you also have to remember that somebody had to come before you to set this up.
Yeah.
And we'll be here afterwards to break it down. All down. And so like, I'm already tired.
That's why like final night, like when because they were trying to get me to final night for Ariana. And I'm like, bro, I don't know if I got the juice for that shit anymore. Like I'll just airdrop in and then leave. I'm not like showing up and like zip tying tarps to tents and shit and fucking setting up events and then tearing it all down. And like, the last one I did at group, I mean, it was fucking brutal. And it wasn't, I mean, as seasons go, it was one of the chiller ones and like least demanding ones I've ever done, but it was still like, God damn, like I'm too old for this shit. Like, oh God. Yeah.
And again, like we can't just take the day off before that to go set that up. So it's like, you get out of work at 4:00 and you're like, all right, now I got to go run and pick up these 8 things, fill the bed of my truck,
set everything,
drive over here, unload everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was good though. I was generally pleased with the season. And we'll see. I don't know if I'll be around, if we'll be in port or not for the next one, but you know, I obviously really don't want to be underway for a season because I imagine that just
they suck,
it
man.
Just sucks logistically and time, and you know, people can't be where you want them. You're super limited,
right?
But I kind of want to see one just so I have an idea of what it's like. You know, I've never seen one. I've seen one underway at on Used to Fish, but not here.
It's way more submarine toned down just by virtue of like everybody's got to stand watch, everybody's got to do other shit, and none of it ever shuts off. Where like when you're in port or on shore duty, it's like people can walk away from things and nothing's gonna fucking mud dart, you know, like or burst into flames. So it's like, I did one. No, I did 2. I did one on Carter. I think it was my first year after Making Chief was underway. And so, I mean, I wasn't doing much. I was just kind of observing. And then I did one on Louisiana where I was running it, and it's just sucked because it's like, it's really hard to give it the attention it deserves, and the give, like, so that those selects have like a memorable event as well. Cause like you're doing the white hat barrel in the fucking TDU room, and you're doing like, I made an anchor puzzle out of TDU weights, and I used like paint pens to draw the anchor, and we had it in Miss Compartment upper level, and like, we were like PTing in, I think, lower level or something, but it's like there's racks in fucking Miss Compartment half the time, so you're in there doing,
you can't be screaming the whole time,
chief PT, and you can't, and it's just, it's not, I don't know. And I'm trying to recall even some of the shit we did, because it wasn't memorable, you know, like it just wasn't. Final night sucked. It just wasn't fun, you know, and it's like, cause there's only so much shit you can do. I think we did we do it on the Mestex? No, I think we did pinning on the Mestex. We talked about surfacing the boat and doing it topside, but I think the weather wasn't cooperating, so we did it on the Mestex. But yeah, it sucked. Like, it was not, I hate doing it underway. And it's like, it's probably a lot cooler on a surface ship, because like everybody's not welded to a watch rotation, and you have like hangar bays and all kinds of other well decks or whatever the fuck they're called. And there's all kinds of cool shit you can do on a ship, and you have all this space, and you can like cordon it off and do all this other shit. And so yeah, it's probably a lot cooler on like a carrier or an amphib or something. But yeah, it's on a submarine, dude. It's like, fuck, it sucks. It's so hard to do anything meaningful. And even during the actual, like the 6-week cycle, even, it's like you don't get as much time with them, because everybody's on a 24-hour watch rotation, and you just have shit to do that's more important, unfortunately, because there's a mission to get done.
You're going to tell some dude like, hey, where's your charge, or where's your vessel? And he's going to be like, oh, sorry, I was doing ORS preps. And
I was busy doing shit that matters. Sorry. Like, and it's, you can't argue with them when they're like, I fucking on watch. Like, what do you want me? Like, it takes a lot of the edge off of everything, you know, and it's like, and it's the volume's turned way down on everything, because it's objectively less important, even though it sucks that you can't, you know, do it like you do it otherwise. But, and then what sucks even more is those poor bastards. Like, we did it, the one we did on Carter, the next year we were in port, and all the boots were there at final night, and they were so butthurt, because the Pacific Northwest final night historically is really good. It's a huge like event, because everybody pools their resources. And when they saw what they missed out on, they were so fucking mad, dude. They like, this one dude, John, was a boot at the detachment. He's like, can I just like fucking take my belt and anchors off and jump in there with him? He's like, I want to do that. That looks so fun. And like, yeah, I felt so bad for them, because they were so salty that they didn't get to do a cool final night. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm with you. Like, I've seen some really cool events that are really fun. And yeah, I mean, it sucks when you have to do it underway, and it's kind of like, you know, but
yeah.
About ready to wrap this up, dog? Call it a night?
Man, I got another soccer game I got to go to tomorrow.
Ugh. Yikes.
Kids scored 2 goals today, though. No
nice.
Big deal.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I always have fun talking to Bob, even when we're not recording, even if we're just hanging out. But yeah, it was cool, because like I legit, like, I mean, we message each other, like he'll send me memes and fucking shit, and then I'll talk to, like, we'll just text back and forth a little bit, and I'll tell him about some stuff that's going on or whatever. But like, just here and there. And so it's like, it's been a while since I've even talked to him, and it's been even longer since y'all have heard from him. So it was cool to catch up and see, you know, like what's going on. But I also thought it was cool to see, and for the listeners and viewers, right? I think it's cool to see a chief being a human, you know what I mean? Like this is what it's like, in a lot of ways. And it gives you some insight into it, like, that you're just like the human emotions and the conflict and the bullshit that a chief has to put up with, just the same as you know, like junior enlisted do. So yeah, I mean, I thought that was as I was editing, I was just like, oh, this is a really interesting perspective for junior people to kind of see that, you know, like, they're not robots, and they sure as hell don't just get away with sucking or like whatever. It's like, no, like, this is, and you know, like, this is a submarine perspective, obviously, but and and submariners see this stuff a lot more readily than I would imagine sailors on larger platforms or in other communities, because like we go to a trainer, like a dive and drive trainer that he was talking about, which is this big room, and it's on this big like hydraulic mounted thing, and it's kind of like almost like a ride at a theme park, but it's like you're simulating a submarine. And so as you're doing things, it's moving, it gives the angle and like goes back and forth and does all this crazy shit. It's really cool. And it's really good at suspending your disbelief and making you really like respond. Like you'll be in there, they'll initiate a casualty, simulated fire or flooding or hydraulic rupture or whatever. And it's like, you get caught up in it. Like you get caught up, like your heart rate gets elevated and you're like frantic and you like freak out a little bit. And it's really great at like simulating an actual response. Like you really kind of forget you're not on a submarine at sea as you're doing it, because it's like all your mental bandwidth is like on trying to do the thing. And so then you start to like, it's like you forget, like your brain doesn't have enough like enough bandwidth to like register that this isn't real. Like we're in a box doing a thing. But yeah, it's inside those things, there's a whole watch team, including a lot of junior people. Well, a couple anyway. I guess there's like usually two senior people, two junior people, the trainer operator, and then like maybe an officer of the deck, depending on what we're doing. But yeah, it's like if Cobb and XO or CO are standing outside the railing and they start yelling at you or whatever, then, everybody's going to see that. Same thing, just like when I was getting screamed at on a submarine at sea. Like the whole control room's filled with like non-khaki wearing people. And they all just heard, and then open mic and all this. It's like everybody just heard me get lit on fire. So that it happens pretty frequently on submarines in front of those people. But then at the same time, it's like there's still a bit of a thought, I guess, that or a feeling that chiefs don't get held accountable, blah blah blah, right? Or that we like get away with things. And so I just thought it was really cool, really cool to observe, like as a listener or a viewer, that like kind of how it affects him as a human, like he's not just a robot, like he's a dude, he's a chief, he's a person, he's just a sailor doing the same thing, wearing a slightly different uniform than y'all. And it's like, and I know people probably look at Bob as like, oh, he's one of the good ones, and it's like, no, they're all human and they all go through this stuff. It's not like he's being treated differently. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting take. It was a cool thing to observe as I was editing. But yeah, always great talking to Bob. Got another great one coming. We did a GUTS After Dark. It's a Chick Chief edition. We've been trying to do this forever, but to try to get this many people on the same page is like time, like scheduling basically, and different time zones it's difficult. And it ended up, I thought it was less people until we got on. It was 6 people plus me. So there's 7 people. And I thought it was going to be a shit show, like trying to balance all the people. And it was actually great. Like they did an amazing job. I was joking with my wife that if that had been a bunch of dudes, we probably would have been like talking over each other. And like it probably wouldn't have worked, which is probably why I had that concern. But it was amazing. I had a great time. That'll be next week's episode, I think. So stay tuned for that. That one was so fun. I think y'all will I had a very good time. I think you all will enjoy the hell out of it. But yeah, if you want to support us, hit us or contact us. God, I can't even think. I got to do the contact us thing first. That's my normal rhythm. If you want if you want to contact us, hit us up, dgutspodcast@gmail.com. You can Facebook message us, Don't Give Up Shit Podcast, or you can DM us on Instagram, Reddit, or Discord at dgutspodcast. If you want to support us, like I said earlier, go to dgutspodcast.com. There's a donate button in the upper right hand corner of the website, or you can go to Don't Give Up Ship Apparel. It's dgutspodcast.com. Get yourself some naval pride and heritage gear you'll actually wear in public, dope stickers, all the stuff you've seen in the ad at the beginning. It's a lot of cool stuff, more to come. And then you can go to patreon.com/dgutspodcast, pick one of the 5 tiers, become a patron today. And it helps us pay our bills. Helps us do cool stuff like this desk chair. All right, my brand new, you can't see it because I got my Trick hoodie on it, but I got this new chair because of the support of all of you dope human beings. Like my desk chair was doing this thing while we were recording the Chief Bob episode, this episode. My chair the old chair won't stay like up like when you elevate it, and otherwise, like if I'd be recording the podcast like this, the frame would be like I'd be like super low and look ridiculous. And I couldn't get my chair to stay up, so I was just fine. I was messing with it. I was trying to figure it out. I tried to fix it, wouldn't work, so I finally just gave up. And I looked for an ergonomic chair because I sit a lot. My back hates me. I'm old and rickety. So I got an ergonomic desk chair. It's gray. It's beautiful. It's got rollerblade wheels on it. And I did that with my business card. I was able to use the business account to pay for this thing. I didn't have to come out of pocket for it, and it's all because of you all that are willing to support, and I can't thank you enough. Like it's incredible to be able to do things like that. I was happy. This has always been a passion project. I hope it becomes a viable job someday. That would be really cool. But even if it's only just like a hobby, like the fact that you all are willing to support me and allow me to do things like this so I don't have to come out of my own pocket to pay for these things. Like I can't even, I know it's just a chair, but like I've been thinking about it all week. I ordered it, and then as I received it and built it yesterday and put it together, and it's super comfortable. I love it. I can't thank you all enough. So that's the kind of, like, it's not just things like that. Obviously, like we pay all the bills, like all the subscription fees, and there's all kinds of, with the website, the RSS feed, sometimes we do ads on social media, shit like that. But all the things cost money, and we really, really appreciate your support. And it allows us to do things like this, get a dope chair that like doesn't suck and keeps me at the right height when we're recording. And, it's incredible. I guess that's it. I'm just like, I'm super grateful. That's where my head is at. I'm in my feels a little bit. That's it. That's what I got for you today. Thank you so much for listening, and don't give up the ship. Hey, shout out to all our level 5 patrons, Victoria Livingood, William McIver, and Mark Gallegos. To all our other patrons, we really appreciate your support. Helps to pay all the bills, expand the platform, and we couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. Please hit the like button, drop a comment down below on what you thought, and subscribe to the channel.